Would you say that COVID has been something that has had long-term effects on not just your business, but perhaps the industry of athletics, recovery, X, Y, and Z?
Absolutely. I mean, I think COVID's touched everywhere, but when we are in a touching industry, right, from the massage side of things, because you said SubZero Cryotherapy, and when I bought it, which was 6 years ago now, we rebranded to SubZero Wellness because we're more than just cryo.
I thought you always owned it.
No, I just managed it for a while. So
Wow.
I bought it in 2018. I opened a second location in the city and then promptly closed the second location in the city over COVID.
Okay.
Because that was the biggest challenge. It was a different product. It was attached to an Amazing Gym, Project Deliverance, and so we got to operate alongside Matt Owen and his crew there, and that was awesome. But nobody wanted to walk through a gym, to go to a separate business, and so the storefront ended up working out better. So we brought it all back to Chesterfield.
Got you. And are you still in Chesterfield today?
We are.
That's what I figured.
Yeah, and we moved to a new location, new to us still, which is 6 years ago, because we've been around for 11 years now.
God
11
bless.
years, yeah. So we were forced to close down, like a lot of businesses were, and we played the are we essential or not essential game, because I didn't realize chiropractors were allowed to stay open. They were deemed essential, kind of medical adjacent, but were wellness. So there was a lot of fear for people coming in. People didn't want to be touched. People were, we played the game with the 6 feet on the floor and plexiglass to talk through, and just isolated people.
Are you serious?
Yes. And when we were allowed to open back up in Chesterfield, we had to be 25% capacity based on your square footage. That allowed us 4 individuals in-house.
Including the employees?
Yes, correct. And so we'd have a staff member at the front desk, and then I decided each therapist in a room with the door closed changes the amount of accessibility with airflow and wrists and all the things. So we all danced a very delicate dance to try to make it happen. But absolutely. If I can figure out how to work the mic. There. Is that bit better? Okay. So the thing that surprised me the most is when we were allowed to open back up with all the extra accommodations we had to make, the first people to show up were my chronically ill and single individuals. And I thought about that, like, why were all of my single individuals coming back? And from all
single meaning relationships. Sorry.
Yes, absolutely. Because they were isolated in their bubble, right? So they wanted to come out and have human connection. We think about failure to thrive in babies and how if they're not held and rocked, obviously they don't gain weight. And we see in the elderly too, which is really sad when they end up in nursing homes and family isn't visiting and they're not being touched. So there was almost a failure to thrive epidemic that I was seeing.
Oh, Jesus.
That people were coming back in. So massage shot right up. And we thought people were going to be scared. We were overflowing.
Really?
For massage. Yeah.
So it was. You would say that COVID actually hurt you in the short term, and then over the course of time, once it was kind of like available to come back in as normal, it actually helped business?
Yes. And the struggle came in with the economic changes that happened afterwards, people having excess money from the government and then not having jobs and all that transition that happened post-COVID. People didn't have the money to spend on luxuries or extras. So I feel like we were deemed as essential during COVID, and then afterwards we were a luxury. So then after this initial boom of 6-8 months, then it dropped off and went cold.
Now you offer more than just like cryotherapy. You also do like the massage therapy. You also do like the compression on the legs. Like you offer a lot of different products. Would you say that this is the status quo for all of the products that you offered, or was it strictly towards the massage part?
Yeah.
Like I'm just trying to understand like how was cryotherapy affected and how was massage affected? Was it correlated or completely separate?
Massage went up because people needed to be touched.
Okay.
They needed connection again. We didn't know how to connect. We were scared to connect. We were told to be scared to connect, and we all believed the lie. At least that's how I visualize it. And so people coming back for touch was awesome. But then people spending money on extras, like I said, the luxuries of cryo and the wellness things, it dropped off for a long time, and it took an education piece. And we started seeing people with long haulers from COVID that were having lung issues, people who were intubated for a while that started using cryotherapy and red light to try to help heal. And then we saw people get scared of medicine because they didn't trust it anymore.
Real quick, red light would be what, like sauna?
No, we have an infrared sauna, but we have red light therapy, which has 5 different wavelengths penetrating different depths of the tissue. And the lowest one is helping with mitochondrial production.
Oh, interesting.
Which helps with cellular transport
It's
and a whole bunch of sciencey
what do they call it?
stuff.
The factory of the cell or something like that?
Yeah, yeah. I saw a Facebook meme that said mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
The powerhouse of the cell, thank
which
you.
is like I woke up like a
Back
sleeper
fifth
agent.
grade
Yes, exactly.
science, guys.
Exactly.
I'm interested now then, if we can, forgive me, would you say that in the year of our Lord 2025, was COVID a good or a bad thing for your business?
It was still a bad thing for our
Still
business.
bad. So net, still in the negative.
You got it.
Just wanted to take a second to pause the action and just tell you guys thank you so much for consuming our content. Easy Talk is a passion project. This podcast is just a bunch of like-minded people coming together to produce some cool stuff and talk to some cool people. One of the things I would very much appreciate is if you could possibly like the video or subscribe to the channel, just because it helps us in the algorithm and ultimately to grow, to get more exposure to everybody, including ourselves, and ultimately just make a better product. Take a second. I'd greatly appreciate it. And on with the show.
Okay, so if you had the choice, you would have chosen not to close down, not to have to go through all that bullshit.
Correct.
It was one of the things that I thought, okay, so I am relatively new to entrepreneurship, so that's my caveat. And I didn't start my first business until after COVID. But when I started the first business after COVID and how immensely difficult it was just to get it off the ground, I thought to myself, thank God I didn't start this in like 2020, like right before COVID, because it would have just been eaten alive. And I have like this affinity and respect for not just the people that kind of were able to survive COVID, either through, the PPP loans, or maybe they just had enough cash on hand, or if they had to take on debt, whatever it was that they had to do. I have this kind of like reverence for people because I feel like they survived like an onslaught, if that makes sense. So congratulations to you for fucking staying alive.
That's
girl.
that's what it feels like, is the onslaught, because the PPP loans were given to people with full-time employees. I only had one full-time employee. Everyone else was part-time. All my therapists were independent contractors. So my PPP loan wasn't significant at all. So it was no help. So I had to go to the EIDL loan and SBA and beg and plead for support. And they answered the cry, but I am continuously owned by the SBA right now.
Yeah.
So
Do you mind kind of let's broaden that. What is an SBA loan? Forgive me. For some of those that might not be initiated.
yeah, so the Small Business Administration does step in whenever there's either like earthquakes and all these tornadoes we've been having in St. Louis. Anytime there's a disaster nationally, weather-wise, all that stuff, and they'll step in and they'll provide support, but it's against the collateral of your business.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting how there seems to be some resources, but I want to be very careful how I say this actually, because I want to take into consideration the audience. There seems to be a lot of nets or safety nets built in with loopholes for business owners. Yet if you seem to be someone who does not own a business or is not working, some of these safety nets seem to be easier to acquire than, let's say, someone who is like paying their taxes and kind of like contributing to society through employment, not taking employment, but giving employment. That's fascinating. Sorry, I was kind of going down a little bit of a rabbit hole. I first met you actually through the MMA community.
yes.
Specifically, this was the days when I was going to the Wolves Den, and Jordan Dowdy was there, Mop was there, and I felt like a lot of us were coming down to the SubZero Cryotherapy to get cryo. Sean Woodson was coming down as well. That was my first foray with you. And I remember even at the time, I got this sense from you that you were just like a busy bee, that you were constantly moving on to the next thing, doing. And it was interesting because I was 24 at the time, so a little younger, or 23 at the time, so a little younger than I am now. I'm 32 now for...
Still just a baby.
Thank you. It's funny though, because there was a lot of things that I saw in you that I now find in myself, but it wasn't something that I don't think I was born with it. So before we get into like the high level conversation, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, I don't think that entrepreneurship is for everybody. I think that there's different strokes for different folks.
I agree.
But do you think that you developed the skill sets for entrepreneurship, or do you think you were born with them?
No. I have no idea what I'm doing when I start this. I never once...
You've been in business for 6-7 years. You survived COVID. You're doing something right.
I don't know what I'm doing still. I feel like everything I know, it's because I learned through failure. It's what works and what doesn't work. And I was just managing SubZero Cryo since 2013, 2018. I bought it, opened a second one immediately because I have big dreams and I believe in myself. And I know I can. I believe in my skills. And you mentioned Sean Woodson, and so I'll say it now. Like, his #believe is one of the nuggets I carry with me all the time. He's my example of someone who believed in himself consistently before anyone else and in spite of everyone else. And I feel like that's what any dream takes, right? People aren't going to understand your goals and your passions, and they don't have to. You need to. So I look at him as a huge success story in a lot of ways, but I always took that little like, Megan, you can't give up on yourself. You've got to keep finding a way. You got to believe. And I found a lot of ways to not make business work. And I've thrown a lot of money at business coaches and programs because I am just a physical therapist who became a massage therapist who loves to help people. And I love to help you so much that in the beginning, if you couldn't afford it, I would just do it for free. Oh yeah, I'm a giver. I'm a giver, which is a great heart. And it's great in a lot of relationships, but it's not great in business.
No, because if you've set the standard for the price, if you're willing to give it out for free, why would I pay for it?
Correct. Well, we can talk about that later when we get to dating.
Yeah.
But yes, but point of the story is I found a lot of ways to do it wrong. And I'm going to say the big B word right now, which is boundaries. I absolutely loathe boundaries. I would just love to run unfettered toward people, alongside people on their journeys, and pull them along when they can't walk anymore. Like, I just want to be all up in it. But not everyone is mine to walk alongside.
That sucks though, because what you're essentially saying is that you're trying to see the best in people, and that you hope that the goodwill will be reciprocated. Unfortunately, especially for people who don't necessarily understand the gravity of the value of what you're doing for them, they will not reciprocate. If they don't understand that like what you're giving them is valued at $100, they might think it's $10 because they don't know, they didn't pay for it. So it's not necessarily that they even like don't necessarily mean well.
Of course.
They think they're giving back. Oh, hey, here's a $20 cryo or whatever. It's like, no, guy, you didn't understand the value of what I gave you versus what you're giving me. And sometimes that's just lost in translation. When you're talking about boundaries though, it's funny that you say that, because I had a conversation with someone that we had on the podcast who we were at like a watch party or whatever for the UFC. We're just watching it at someone's house. And he was like, hey, I have like this business opportunity if you want to hear me out. And I was like, hey man, I'm always down to hear you out. But I want you to know right now that like Arion hat is about to come off and now business hat is going to come on. So I just want you to know that if you want to have this conversation, I'm down to clown, but you better have like, I'm going to ask questions. And if I feel like you didn't do your due diligence, now I'm going to think you're an idiot and that you wasted both of our time. And, he gave me the pitch and everything like that. And let me just say that he probably didn't have all his ducks in a row. And I think after the conversation with me, once I was like, what about this? What about that? What about this? He's like, oh shit.
But you just grew him.
Yes.
I was like, we dreamers need people to ask us the hard questions. One of my best friends in my life, she's my no girl. If I want somebody who always believes in me and accepts me as I am and all that stuff, she's like, nope, that was stupid. Nope, that wasn't a good idea. Nope, you probably shouldn't do that.
What's the fine line between that and a cynic?
Yeah.
Because you can't be nope on everything, right?
No, but she's not afraid to tell me no.
Got you. Okay.
Is the point. So when I'm like, you know what? I mean, she'll get excited if she's on the same page as me, but she has no problem telling me that I'm off my rocker.
Gotcha.
And that's not going to work the way you think, which I don't like to hear that word. I don't want somebody to poo-poo my dreams. But she's protected me from a lot of silly mistakes or, over-giving.
I think you need both. I think you need that dreamer because those are the ones that then like push the boundaries. And then you also need the one to ground you, because you can't stay grounded forever, or else you'll never take any shots and any chances. You'll only stay with what's like kind of known, and it's gonna cripple you from growth going forward, or prevent you from even getting started. There was like that one quote, or like it's like a meme quote or whatever that says like the fear of failure has defeated more people than failure. And it's just like that's fucking true.
Sure.
But at the same time, I can't tell you how many people come up to me with business ideas, and I'm like, dude, did you not think of step 2?
No.
I have this great idea. Oh, okay, let's hear it. We're gonna put memes on shirts. Okay.
Well, I was like,
you're not the only one.
That's where your strength comes in, because like I said, you just grew that person. You taught them how to think differently. And if people have the ability to learn that skill, that becomes the question.
I think with that one individual we were talking about, like at the UFC fights, like I do think that he learned a lot from that.
Yes.
However, I don't necessarily think that that's the case for everybody. I think a lot of people that I've talked to think like, oh, Arion, you're doubting me. I'll show you. Which, to be honest with you, I hope I'm wrong. I always tell people this, like, hey, this is what I'm going to say. I want you to know that I hope I'm wrong. And I hope you make me eat these words. And one day you're a billionaire and you write me in some book as like naysayer 1. You know what I mean? Please, I hope that's the case.
But you're not going to pay for their dream.
Not just that.
Or invest in it.
It's funny. The way that conversation ended was basically like he wanted to be essentially like the financier of his business. And I was like, okay, well, what's my value add? And he's like, what do you mean? Like, business. I go, yeah, but you don't need me. You can easily like YouTube how to do a P&L, how to do your taxes for an LLC. Like you'd be surprised at the resources you have available to yourself to not be ignorance at this point in time is a choice. If you don't know shit, that's on you. So I told him, I was like, if my value add is stuff that you could easily Google or YouTube, why would you give me equity for that? You can kind of see like the hamster wheel turning. I go, moreover, the reason why you want me to finance it is because you don't have the balls to take a loan out on this. Because if you just need $100,000, you can go get a small business loan right now. I know a bunch of banks that'll give you one, even with shit credit, because they don't care. They're kind of like private equity. They'll throw 10 out because they want one to bite and win, you know? Anyway, so I told him, I was like, what you want is you want someone to finance your dream. And if it doesn't work out, you want to be 1 foot in, 1 foot out so that you can just be like, hey, it didn't work out. I'm sorry. Dude, go fuck yourself. I'm no one's piggy bank.
Yeah,
I
you
was
got
like,
to go all in.
I was like, you get a loan. I was like, if you need help with like how to get all these things done, I'm your man. But I don't want anything to do with this. And like I said, like afterwards, he's like, dude, you got me thinking about a lot of things. I was like, brother, I know, because I have these conversations all the time. And I never want to discourage someone from entrepreneurship.
Sure.
But I also don't want them to think that like they're sitting on gold when I don't think they are. Does that make sense? I don't want to.
That's just being honest. But also, you initially started with saying, like, do you think we're born with this, or is it a skill that's learned? And it can be both. The thing that I have that makes me successful in my business, any success I have, I believe comes with my ability to connect with people, because I'm in the service industry. And I use the example a lot when you're getting your hair cut by somebody. Women just chat, and we're building relationships. And so when it came to cryo, I taught my staff, we build relationships 3 minutes at a time. While they're in the cryo sauna, it's your time to go, how do you feel? What do you need? And our goal at SubZero is when you walk in, it's kind of like the old school cheers. We want to be like, Norm. When you walk in, we want to be like, Arion, you're 2 weeks out. How's your weight? You know, like we want to know your story.
I got that vibe.
Yeah, and like that's something we do very, very well there. Everyone's story matters. And at the end of the day, that's where I feel like my biggest success is, not in dollar signs, but in human connection with people, allowing them to be seen and be heard.
What do you think is the greatest form of marketing for yourself? Has it been like money you put towards ads, sponsorship, or has it been word of mouth?
No, it's all relationships and referrals.
So word of mouth.
Absolutely.
So then would you say that, and this is something that I'm kind of coming against, like a rub, so to speak. I have fighters that like want to be sponsored, and they ask me like,
Absolutely.
hey, if I actually had a fighter today contact me, amateur, and God bless him, but he was like, hey, I'm going to have a fight coming up. For $250, I'll put your name or your logo on my banner and all this other stuff. And I had to kind of tell him, I was like, hey, I have sponsored some fighters before and I did it because, I was a fighter and I got sponsors and they helped me out, you know what I mean? But I also like to think that I understood, like, I need to bring like business to them because they gave me $100, $200. So like,
Sure.
if I don't bring $150 back to the person who gave me $100, then they just lost $100
You're
on
bad
me.
ROI, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then how do I come back to them for fight number 2 and be like, hey, you want to sponsor me again? So like there was always this connotation of like, I need to make sure that I'm kind of returning that investment on them, however small it was. But I had to tell him, I was like, hey, I have sponsored a couple fighters and I gave him like good money to be completely honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I just did not get the return that I wanted back. And I never said anything to the fighters, like, hey, good luck on your next one, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But I'm
lesson
just
learned.
not in the market for sponsoring fighters. Now, the reason I bring that up is I want to bring it back full circle. So like you're telling me that like, word of mouth is like good for your business and that's how you get like the main referrals and business through the door. But has there ever been an instance where you feel like a stigma on cryo or massage therapy or anything that is completely outside of your control? Perhaps someone went to like a massage envy and had a shit experience and now they just don't believe in massage. Or maybe they went to another cryotherapy place where it was just poor service and now they're like, wow, this cryotherapy stuff doesn't really work. Or maybe they had a chiropractor that just like touched them 2 times, popped their neck and like, okay, here's the bill. Do you feel like there's also been negative connotations in your craft that have nothing to do with you? Not at all?
No, I don't think so. I think, at least I'll say the people that I come in contact with is because they're still seeking, they're still asking questions. They'll come in and tell me the stories. I had a chiropractor come in, I paid $150. He spent 2 minutes on me, cracked my neck twice. My pain's still here, and that's why I'm here today. So I get the opportunity to listen to their story, right? To let them be heard. And my background in physical therapy, I think, helps me bridge the gap. It sets me apart as a massage therapist. So I'm able to watch you walk in the room, see which leg you put more weight on. I used to joke whenever I was actively training with my CMMA fighters, I'm like, let me watch tape. I'll tell you which leg's their weak leg. I'll tell you where to attack. That's not a real thing. I mean, you can tell if somebody's had surgery, but everybody's going to know that. But I could see movements and see where they were weak because I could analyze that. So someone would walk in the door, I'd be like, wow, how long's your right hip been bothering you? And they're like, how did you know? And already there's a little bit of faith. There's a little bit of trust. And then it allows me to open up and have a conversation. Massage always has stigmas on it. people think they're hilarious by calling us masseuses. It's the most offensive word in the world.
Is it?
We are professionals. Yes.
Is masseuse what is a?
It carries a sexual connotation with it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, not it. And so I hate being called a masseuse, and we are professionals, and people have had horrible massage experiences where deep tissue therapists go way too hard, way too deep, and deep tissue shouldn't mean deep pressure, but we're trying to reach the deeper tissues, so people think they have to push really hard. That's not how that works. One of our lines, we say we shouldn't have to hurt you to help you. And so we say that, and then when you talk about massage envies, and there's a time and a place for all sorts of massage, to fall asleep to tinkly music on a table and have nobody talk to you. As a mom who lives overstimulated, I'm like, just nobody say anything to me for the next hour. I would pay millions for that sometimes, you know? So, but I say, if you want to fall asleep to tinkly music, you can go do some of that someplace else, cheaper, easier, more accessibility. We're not here to rub your feelings. We're here to fix your problems.
You were saying earlier that, you know, you know a lot of ways to not do business through kind of implying that you've made mistakes along the way. Has there been one mistake in particular that you feel okay or comfortable talking about, simply because, and I'll reciprocate if you want, but like, I think a lot of times people think that if something bad happens in business, that perhaps this is the sign to quit. But I also feel like that is going to be par for the course. Like I always say, like, I'm going to eat shit. We're just deciding what the price tag on that plate is going to be.
Right. You have to be prepared to fail.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be things that you think are going to go one way and they don't. And it's not even failure like everything is wrong. It's like this worked and this didn't work. So I have a lot of things that didn't work for me. Very early on, the company that owned it before was, you know, our big thing is everything is $20. We want you to come in and try it at $20. We have
even a massage?
No, oh my
Oh, I was
gosh.
going to say, like,
No.
that's like
just red light, cryotherapy, infrared sauna, all
the products, not necessarily
yes,
the
all
service.
the modalities.
Okay.
Yes, all the modalities. We want you to try it for $20. We want you to know that you
It's
like
like a
it.
$20 massage. Jesus Christ.
No, that's back to the masseuses. Anyway, so
$20 is $20.
yay, good job with your standards, Ariane.
I never said I was a classy broad.
Yeah, we're picking up on that. So we, the one thing I did is I devalued my services. Our membership is the cheapest in the area. It's $199 for 26 credits. You can use it for any of the modalities in-house. It renews every month. We don't even have you sign a 3 months,
Is each
6
one
months.
credit?
Mm-hmm, correct.
Oh, so you can go like almost like literally once per day for a month.
Correct. And
That's
then when
awesome.
people are like, well, I can't get in that often. Fine. Then when you come in, do Normatec, do a cryo, then hop in a sauna and use 3 credits and give yourself a mini spa day.
Yeah.
$199. Cheapest in the area. We weren't selling enough memberships. Way back in the day, we decided to do a $99 unlimited cryo. And just like you said, people think the value is now $99, and they were unwilling to pay the $199. Instead of giving them the introduction and how awesome it is, and it's worth so much more than you realize, they now think it's, and that and Groupon. Groupon's the worst thing ever.
I once worked at a restaurant when I was younger who used Groupon to get people through the door. And it was quickly apparent that, like, yeah, I brought in business.
And then they never came back.
And then they never came
Yes,
back.
because
And
they didn't
would,
want to pay
and
the
they would
price.
exclusively only come in whenever we would renew the Groupon. And it took a while for the owners to, like, the very first time they did it, they're like, oh, this is great. You know what I mean? How many people are going to be coming back? And then they realized that, like, oh, like, none of these, we started, we got, like, later on before I got my first big boy job, we had, like, this computer system. So we could, like, track repeat customers. And there was, like, a skew for the Groupon users where, like, 90% of them would only come back with a Groupon. So, like, we're just like, at this point, just discount the plates. You know what I mean? Like, what's the point? Like, why even
Right.
go through Groupon? Just tell them, hey, we'll come in here, we'll give you a discount. Or just set the standard. I actually have a new affinity for luxury pricing now that I didn't normally have. And this is going to make me sound very douchey.
I was like, explain that.
Okay, so for me personally, when I was younger, I grew up really poor, and I was basically poor until I wasn't. That's like the best way to describe me, right? I was a college kid, I was broke. In high school, I was broke. The first year out of college, I was broke because I was paying off student loan debt. I had just moved out, and I financed. If there's any advice I give anybody, it's like, just because you get a job that makes like $80K a year, it doesn't mean you have $80K in the bank. So like, I got this job and I was like, oh my gosh, Dad, I'm going to move out. I had like $100 in my bank account. And I moved out. I financed all my furniture. Like day one, I was like $6,000 in the hole, and I had like $12,000 in student loan debt. And I was like, oh, I'll pay that off in a year. Dumb Ariane didn't realize, like, oh, I got to start paying taxes now. So I'm actually not really making $80K. Anyway, and then after that, sky was the limit, and life is good now. But when I was broke, I really penny pinched, and like price really mattered to me. Now, the amount of money I spend on shit would make previous Ariane throw up, and I'm not like wealthy. I do okay. I know guys that are much wealthier than me.
Sure.
And I find that there's this ledge that you can kind of walk off of to where price no longer matters so long as the product is supreme. So like I will pay $2,000 or $3,000 for a suit if I feel like that's it doesn't even have to be the best suit. As long as I feel like it is, the service, my tailor, and all these other things, yeah, I'll pay the price. A couple of years ago, $2,000 a suit, I'd shit my pants. That's like one instance of something that I'm talking about. And it goes on more than that. I mean, this is going to make me sound so douchey. There's no way for me to say it or articulate it without being honest. I'll go out for a dinner and drop 150 on just me. Sure. I don't care. Was the steak good? Was the alcohol good? I don't care about the price. And then I'm noticing the clientele in that area. There is like this fine line to where I think like once you start making something a little bit more pricey, but you really establish its quality, you're going to get a different clientele. And then it's like that equilibrium cost where like, would you rather have 1,000 customers at $100 a pop? Would you rather have 500 customers at $300 a pop and you're still making more money? It's a fine line. Now, here's the thing. I have no idea about your industry. Sure. So like I have no idea what that price should be. The only reason I bring that up is because we were talking about pricing. If I make it $20, then that's the price. Well, dude, what if you make it $200? Then you're also offering them value. What if you make it $300? Have you ever played around with pricing to see where it falls off a cliff?
No, I haven't. I worry about pricing myself out of the gig. And there was actually, as you brought it up, there was a lady who was regional in sales at Aveda, was second in the company. And she said, my formula is this. When you're 80% booked, you raise your prices by 20%. You'll lose 20% of your clientele.
You'll still make more
money.
money.
You'll make the same money doing less work.
Or the same. Like,
yeah.
Like,
and then those 20% will realize what they had with you. They can't get anywhere else, and they'll come back and pay that price. If your service is really what you say it is.
And that's the X factor, right? Correct. You actually have to own up to that price. If you're going to charge $300 instead of $199, well, then it better be worth that $300.
Sure.
I guess the only reason I bring that up is it's just something that I've noticed in myself, how like price elasticity for these various goods and services has really just diminished for me. And it's not because of what I make. It's because I would prefer to pay extra for quote unquote the better, not even the best, the better. And I'm okay with that. So long as it doesn't even have to be the better, as long as it's perceived to be the better.
Sure.
Which is like marketing. If it is just marketing, then they're playing a great trick on me.
Right. But it's about what you assign value to.
Yes.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. So in this phase of, excuse me, in this phase of my life, I've been able to curate a whole new life for myself the last couple of years. And I operate off something that I very cheesily but lovingly call the power of one. And the example I give is, you know how you always look for that one pin because it feels good in your hand or you like the way that it glides on paper? Then why do I have 60 other pins? I'd rather pay more to get the pin I like. Same thing with scissors. My mom was a home ec teacher, and so she always had pinking shears and fabric scissors. And if you touched her fabric scissors, she would go insane because it would dull out quickly. In my house, when I ask my kids, hey, go grab me a pair of scissors, they'll bring me the blue ones. I'm like, no. They're like, the orange ones. I'm like, nope. I'm like, where are my gray ones? Then why do I have the blue and the orange?
That's exactly how I am.
So I decided moving forward, I'm only going to bring the exact thing I want in my house. And it may be $10, it may be $10,000, but I'm going to save until I have the money to get the exact thing instead of getting something kind of to do the job that I'm going to replace later as soon as I can get the exact one.
My wife gives me so much shit because like now when we go out for dinner or whatever, I say the same 3 places. And sometimes we go to different places because she wants to like, I want to go to this place and try this place out. Megan, can I tell you how many times we've tried out like a new place and it's like utter dog shit? And like, I get like angry. I'll give you, I have no problem calling this out because we paid $300 for this dinner and I was actually angry leaving. It was the Pasta del Alfonso in the Ritz-Carlton. Like this like fancy, everything fancy. The worst dinner I've had better dinners at Texas Roadhouse. And so, like, we're leaving, and, like, I'm kind of, like, visibly upset because, like, obviously I still paid, still did the tip and everything. And my wife is like, what's going on? I was like, you used to give me shit because we go to these same places. And by the way, they're all, like, great places. Capitol Grill and, you know, like, I'm not saying, like, we're going to McDonald's or some shit. I was like, you always ask me, like, why I always go to the same places. Because when I go to the same places with the same people, that the service is there. I know Brandon at Capitol Grill. By the way, shout out Brandon and Capitol Grill in Clayton. Fucking phenomenal. Every time I come in there, treats me like a king. Trattoria Toscana in Sunset Hills. I know the owners there. Every time I come in there, treat me like kings. It's not about the steak or the dinner or whatever, because that's the same shit everywhere I go. It's about kind of what you were saying. When I walk through the door, when the owner comes in and shakes my hand, fuck yeah. Or I walk through the door, Brandon sees me, he's like, oh, come on, I got a table for you, brother. I skip the line and everyone's like, who's that guy? It feels fucking amazing.
Sure.
There's something to be said about those intangibles. And by the way, if you were to put a price tag on that, I bet you I would pay more than I'd like to admit. Like if you told me that I could get a Brandon at every restaurant I go to, cool. I'll pay $200 for that. If I could know the owner of every restaurant I go to, I would pay money for that. That's tangible like value to me. So it goes back to my comment earlier about like the pricing of things. Mm-hmm. And I think more than anything, and I don't want to go down this path, but I just want to briefly touch on it. With advancements in technology, creating a homogeneous line for the status quo throughout industries, through AI, robotics, whatever, the intangible value going forward will be interpersonal. When everything that you could ever want is being made by all similar types of ilk, and AI has basically created this standard of living that previous generations of humans could only imagine, what are we going to revert back to? Interpersonal relationships. I want someone to physically touch me, even if it's through a massage. Maybe I just want to go to the hairdresser because like, hey, ask me about my day.
That's why you like Brandon. That's why you like the owner. It's because the connection you have with the human there.
I agree.
Right? And so there is the value. So that's where like you can't put a price tag on the relationship that you build. And so
I think you could.
well,
if you had to.
You would monetize it.
Yeah, if you had to.
I'm just saying that's the
I wouldn't pay
huge,
$1,000 for it.
Sure. But
you
that's
know what I mean? There's a
huge
fine
value
line.
to me. Because I've had clients say, I'm like, when I'm out of town, all my therapists are phenomenal. I don't hire rubber dubbers. I don't like, they're intuitive and they have amazing touch and they read the body well and you walk out changed. That's the goal. We're not here to rub your feelings. You're going to walk out changed. Excuse me. And, but I've had people, I was like, if you can't get in with me, this will be the right therapist for you while I'm out of town. It's okay. I'll just wait. And I'll have people waiting 4, 6, 8 weeks. I have people booking throughout the entire year because they don't want to miss their appointments with me.
Wow.
That is the greatest honor I can have.
It's a compliment, man.
Absolutely. I was like, so I get the pleasure of knowing stories and understanding their body. And I've been through phases on people's bodies, pre and post surgery. I had one client that comes in every Tuesday and does a forehand massage with me and Holly. So he has 2 therapists working on her. Had a shoulder surgery, was supposed to be in a sling for 12 weeks. We took her out of the sling, not to do anything active or against her doctor's orders, but still worked everything we could passively. The second she was allowed to move her arm, she had almost perfect range of motion. And her therapist was like, what happened? Her therapist started coming to us. I'm like, that's amazing, because what we do is different.
Have you thought about also, I went to you a couple times,
Sure.
and the experience that I had was completely foreign to me from what I could say was like the status quo. The very first time I went to you, it was actually because I had lower back problems. And I was telling you, I was like, hey, my lower back is like on fire. You proceeded to work. It was like a 1-hour massage. And you proceeded to spend like 30 to 35 minutes on just like stretching my legs and like my hips,
Yeah.
and like my thighs and everything. And I remember, because I was uninitiated, I was like, hey, Megan, like,
Does she know what she's doing?
It's my back that hurts. And then you're just like talking to me. You're like, yeah, this is why, this, that, or the other. And then I remember thinking like, did I go to the wrong place? Oh my gosh. The second you went from, you got off my legs and you're like, all right, stand back up. And I was like, okay, noticeably different. Now, this is my question for you. I think a lot of times, especially like in any sort of medical field, sometimes the doctors or whoever don't necessarily listen to the ailments of the patient or the client or whatever, and they're so quick to kind of pseudo deduce what could possibly be wrong with them. The interaction that I had with you was actually like the exact opposite, where you listened to what I said and you're like, okay, Ariane, that's what's wrong with you. But you tackled it from a different way that I would have never, like if you would have told me, like, how do you think Megan's going to tackle it? I wouldn't have started with that, right?
Sure.
How do you kind of couple the fact that you have to listen to your client and what ails them and all this other stuff, but then also educate them that what you're doing will help? Because by the end of that hour, I was like, holy shit, you worked like magic. And I remember for the first 30 minutes, I was doubting you.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that is an isolated story to just me, or have you had multiple interactions that could be similar in ilk like that?
No, that's my story. That's almost every client that gets on my table. And case in point, I had a guy come in today from LA, and his sister is one of my clients, and she gave up her session so
he could come in?
so he could get in. And
Boss move.
And he immediately went like, I like Swedish medium pressure. And I was like I almost fell asleep listening to him. And then he told me about his stories and injuries and shoulders and can't move and all this different stuff. And I said, okay, here's what I do. Here's what I'd like to do and why. So education is a huge piece. I need your buy-in. I mean, it goes back to like when you're coaching wrestling, if you can't explain what to do, but why you're doing it before they even get the outcome. And the thing is I don't want you living on my table. I want to show you I can make a difference, because if all I'm doing is stretching and creating space in the tissue, the body knows how to heal itself, but you need to retrain your body to hold that new space. So my job is to send you out the door armed with stretches to keep the space, maintaining the muscle length so your body can continue to heal.
That is counter to the status quo, because what you're essentially saying is you want to actually cure people.
Absolutely. I don't want
But that's bad for business, Megan.
No, it's not. It's phenomenal.
Why? The word of mouth?
You know what? Yeah, you know why? Because you're telling everybody about that girl that helped your back in one session.
Smart woman.
Yeah. So it's great. So I say, the goal is not to have you live on my table. It's go out there and live life.
And then you're going to tell all your friends, oh my God.
And the next time something hurts on you, you'll be like, remember that one girl that one time?
God
and
bless.
same thing. And so it's brilliant.
You realize how mature that is as a thought, though, because most people would say, like, how can I recoup, or how can I create like a recurring, source of income from this individual? I don't necessarily, there's this connotation with medical practices, and like not necessarily curing the ailment, but kind of like subsiding it or masking it so that you can create this source of revenue for as long as possible. But what you're saying is saying, hey, no, what's worked better for me, or what's better for my business interest, is actually curing you.
Right.
Because then you're going to go out and speak the word.
Because I'm wellness, right? I don't want you broken. I don't want you sick. I don't want you hurting. I want you well. So if I can't help, you have to do the work too, right? The relationship's a two-way street. I show you what to do. You actually have to go do it.
Yeah, fair.
Or it'll be ineffective. But yes, I want you well, because if you come to my wellness place and you walk out well.
You've worked on a lot of fighters, and I recently saw your Facebook post with Alexa Grasso.
Yeah.
How did that happen? How'd you get linked up with her?
Iridium Sports reached out.
That's what I figured.
Thanks to Sean Woodson. Yeah.
So Sean's connections, and this is kind of where I'm going with this question. You have been, for the entirety of the time that I've known you, you have been kind of inundated, or not inundated, but connected to the MMA community,
Absolutely.
right? You used to train over at CMAA over in Granite City before they shut down. Rest in peace, boys.
I know.
What is it about mixed martial arts? What is it about that, I don't want to call it sport, that form of fighting and your line of work that kind of created this bridge between the two?
I am so glad you asked, because my intro into MMA, the very first MMA fight I ever watched was your fight night where you were main event against Levi Rose.
Oh, at Family Arena? No shit.
Easter weekend, April 2014.
By the way, rest in peace, Levi Rose.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Beautiful human.
Yeah, he was a cool cat.
And I just remember I got floor seats. I was up close. I was supposed to be there for work. Like, hey, and I do cryotherapy. And if you get punched in the face, I'll help you. So I was supposed to be marketing and meeting people and shaking hands. So it was Susie and Debo walking around. So I'm shaking hands with all these people. And then I'm watching these fights. But we all know as the night goes on, skill level changes.
Yeah.
And I watch you walk in there, and forgive me if this is offensive anyway, but I thought, dude's Mighty Mouse. Like, he's this tiny, fast little thing, and he's just like murder, and like, you were out to murder that man. And so I'm getting sweaty palms and tight chest and all the things, and then the bell went off, and everything was done, and you guys hugged.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, brother's got a hug. Like, I'm a lover more than I'm a fighter, and that changed everything. I thought, how can you guys flip that switch from having to turn it on and seek the controlled destruction of another? And then you guys,
it's nothing to do with that. It's more like respect, because I had just spent, I believe though, that with that fight with Levi, we did 4 4-minute rounds. This was like the wild, wild west of amateur fighting before
Sure.
the state athletic commission got involved. And you could essentially like agree to basically do whatever you wanted. As long as both parties agreed, you could do 3 5 minutes if you really wanted to, even as an amateur back then. Like, no one's really stopping you, you know what I mean? So we had decided to do 4 4-minute rounds. And I mean, you're right. I had like very ill will against Levi. And I mean, I hit him with everything that I could. And then at the end of it, he sat there, he stood up. I don't know if you remember this, but he threw up into a bucket. Like, I could not finish him. I was trying to take him into the deep waters. I was trying to drown him. He survived. And then afterwards he threw up in this bucket. And it's not that like I didn't still want to win the fight or anything like that. It was just like this respect thing of like, dude, I just tried to beat your ass for the last 20 minutes. And you kind of have this like reverence for one another. I don't dislike anyone that I've ever fought after I fought them. Before there was
You
like
have
a
to
lot
be
of
in a different headspace.
yeah, because like he's trying to hurt me, and you know if he knocks me out, he'll cheer and all that other stuff. So it's like it's not that I'm necessarily I don't I hate them. I don't hate anybody. But yeah, you do develop like this kind of like animosity. There have been very few people that I've ever fought where like there was like mutual respect before the fight. But after the fight, there was always an immense amount of respect. Win, lose, or draw, I didn't care because I was like, dude, you were in there with me. And I like to think I'm a badass. So, like, congratulations to you.
Yeah.
So, I did not know that that was the
Yeah.
first time that you went to
I've ever seen MMA in my life. I've never seen a boxing match. I'd never seen anything violent. And I just thought, I need to know more about this.
Dude, how cool was Fight Hard?
Yeah.
I tried to articulate it for the amateurs that are coming up now. Kenny Nowling was a complete piece of shit of a human being. However, in my opinion, Fight Me and Fight Hard were some of the best production slash show slash venue that we had in the local area. And I remember as an amateur, I just felt like on top of the
Yeah,
world.
you guys got to walk out like Bellator.
Yeah, it was fucking awesome. And I think to myself now, like, it's just such a shame that, like, I want to be careful how I say this. There are a lot of things that go into the background of like a promoting and setting up fights and stuff like that. And a lot of the promoters have like really done some shady shit on the back end of things. Locking up venues, calling the fire marshal on opposing promotions. I mean, it is like
Yeah, the Wild West out
the
there.
promotion of fighting tends to just bring out the worst in people. But one of the things that I genuinely wish we could bring back is like Fight Hard, Fight Me. Not necessarily the promotion, but like that standard of fighting where like free tickets, $20 parking, bring in the whole family. Like that was just so fucking epic. And this is why I say he was a genius. He's an awful human being, but Kenny understood that like it goes back to price. Kenny did not want to sell fighting to people. He sold the people to the businesses, to the sponsorship, and fighting was the vehicle. That's why I think it was so genius. Because then you could pack 5, 6, 7,000 people for an all-AMI show because it's free at $20 parking, like either park down the street or carpool. And it was amazing. Every fight that I've been to since doesn't have that same spark. And we've had, you know, NFA at the Armory and at the Factory and LFA when they're in town, and you know, Shamrock at Ameristar and all these other things. I know that the Ameristar is about to have their new arena thing. It just hasn't had that same buzz, or maybe this is just nostalgia talking, and I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Maybe I
Well,
got roasted in goggles on.
I was like, but you're allowed to hold those memories the way you do. But that was my first step in experiencing and watching it and seeing it live in person. And then the first person I ever sponsored that came in was Nick Krutz, who fought for a little while. And then I had some St. Charles guys come in. And then it just kind of spiraled down there. And that's when then I got involved in training. And we actually trained together in the basements underneath Katie's Pizza under Jay.
Rest in peace.
Yes, Jay D'Amato. So, and then I followed him to a church basement someplace else, and I didn't understand 90% of what he was saying half the time because he was so animated and so passionate. He'd be like, no, 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 and then I'd do it right once. He'd be like, yes, feel it. And I'm like, no. But
He was the best coach I've ever had. He's definitely not everybody's cup of tea, but when it came to, I attribute a lot of my success to the fact that I was so blessed to have him as my first coach. I just learned a lot of things right out of the get-go.
the main thing I remember is cutting angles.
Yeah,
just
or
taught me.
parrying, simple parry drills. You know,
Yep,
before you even think about hitting someone, let's worry about not being
getting
hit.
hit.
And for me, as like a young wrestler, I was like, it was such a foreign concept to me because I was aggressive, push the pace, all this other stuff. Jay was like, hey, hold on, cowboy. You don't want to get like flying knee knocked out. Like, let's go back. Let's just like, what is the first thing about fighting? Well, how do you win a fight? He said this to me, and I steal this quote. You don't win a fight by hitting somebody 100 times. You win a fight by hitting them one more time than they hit you. So if they hit me 100 times, that means I have to hit them 101. If they don't hit me, I only have to hit them once. And I remember for like an 18-year-old Arion, I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is Jedi stuff, you know? And rest in peace, Jay.
He was one of a kind.
Dude,
That's the best way to put it.
St. Louis is blessed to have some of the people that it has, and I don't know if they're adequately compensated or respected. Mike is another one where he changed my life as well. Like Jay and Mike changed my life, and Devon Ford. But forgive me, I kind of went down a rabbit hole.
No, it was like, but that's the memories we hold on to, right? Like that's how I got into it, and then I feel like I could never leave it because I had so much respect for it. And
Are you still inundated with like the MMA fighters and all that stuff today?
I still have some come in, not as much. I feel like the ones I walked alongside and helped.
They might all be retired or
Yeah, they're retired. They're coaching now.
Yeah.
Or they're cornering and they're moving on. Like they're in the next phase, which is beautiful to see because they're still giving back to the sport.
Yeah.
Which is exciting. But I got to box once.
Yeah.
I competed once.
How was that?
I lost once and realized I'm a lover, not a fighter. But it was a beautiful experience for my brotherhood. So all my CMA guys showed up. Craig Nazello stuck Vaseline tampons up my nose, and there's a picture of me going like this, and I got to cut weight. I think my favorite cutting weight story is boxing slightly different than MMA, and I became like the mom of my CMMA guys, and I would carry a camera, my big kind of Nikon kind of thing, and I would take pictures and weigh-ins and all this stuff and give it to them to post on their pages and their socials for their sponsors and everything else.
You were a real one, Megan. You were a real one.
I was in the mix, and I got to make desserts, and we'd hang out at Smokey Joe's afterwards and have crappy pizzas and beers, and like I said, that was family to me for a very long time, and it was super special.
Did you have that when you were growing up, like that group of like the camaraderie that comes with fighting? Because you're a woman in like a very male-dominated world, yet I can be the first person to tell you, like, it was never even like a concept to us. Like, it was just like, yo, that's Megan. That's what's up. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that.
Yeah. But it just seemed like, I don't know if that is like, because I don't know, did you play sports when you were younger?
Absolutely.
Okay. What did you play when you were younger?
Yeah, I was a 3-sport athlete. I was volleyball, basketball, and track.
Okay.
I did a slight little squish to the side. Sophomore year of high school, decided I wanted to be a dancer because all the guys liked ballerinas and cheerleaders and the pretty girls and the dainty ones. I'm like, I'll take up dance. I look like a ballerina. I look like a hippo in a tutu trying to dance ballet.
I have this wrestler. She's a girl. She plays softball. And my running joke to her is like, you can just tell me you're gay. You don't have to play softball.
That's lovely. That's lovely.
she's like, Coach, I'm not gay. I was like, all right, well, if you are, you can just tell me.
But we can love you anyway.
Yeah, I was like, yeah.
That's
so,
funny.
You already had these sports like kind of under your belt. Did you have that same camaraderie with the girls that you did with boys later on in your life?
Absolutely.
Was it similar?
I was a little bit of a chameleon. So I always say my best friend was whoever I was on the sports team with. During volleyball season, it was this girl. During basketball season, it was that girl. During track, it was a different girl. During softball, it was all the girls.
You are a social butterfly.
Yeah. Well, I was like, the thing is I want to be a part of something bigger than myself. The word team is huge to me. And so not that I don't care what role I play, I just want my role to be effective. And so at CMMA, I had a massage table upstairs. And I remember Steve would look at me if somebody went pop on a shoulder, he'd go see Megan, and I'd take off my gloves, hit in the bag, and then go upstairs and work on
Doing
somebody and
work.
come back. Yeah. I was like, because I got to keep my boys on the mats because, we got a competition coming up. So it was a lot of fun. It was a very special time.
What was it like when they told you that they were going to close up shop? Was it...
Yeah, that burned.
Yeah.
That burned because that place became my outlet. How I got involved was Jordan Dowdy came into SubZero, and he was like needing cryo and needing body work. And so we decided to barter body work for training. And it was Mother's Day weekend that I went out, and he goes, before you can hop into my cardio kickboxing classes, I just got to show you basic. He taught me Jay's sequence for like shadow boxing, and he taught me how to throw punches appropriately, and then he just tossed me into the mix with the rest of all the girls in the cardio kickboxing class. And then one day, one of the other fighters said, hey, you're pretty good. You want to stay for stand-up? And I was like, absolutely not. I don't want to be punched in the face with a bunch of boys. They're like, we don't hit that hard. It's just face tag.
famous last words.
They were sweet. I've only been hit hard a few times. Enough to know that I don't like to be hit hard, which is true. But I had a lot of fun. I got to spar with Lori, Steve's wife, Noel.
Oh, yeah.
I got to help her with one of her fights, and we traded back and forth, and it was pretty good. And that's the first time I've ever been able to.
How'd they talk you
hang out
into
with the
competing?
chick.
Did you want to compete, or was it like something that they kind of negotiated you to do?
Yes, but I was really hoping to kickbox.
Okay.
So boxing wasn't my gig, but I was really hoping to kickbox. But they came at me and they're like, you know what, Megan, there's this girl, and she's green, and she's 0-0, and she can never find anybody. This is like her third time with Golden Gloves trying to find an opponent. They can't find an opponent because she's 163.
Yeah.
In girl world,
Which is
that's
bigger,
throwing up big numbers.
Yeah.
When I started, I was...
Well, 163 training, meaning she probably walks around like 180, 185.
You got it. So I had joined the gym to lose weight after having kids. So I was going from 240 down to 200, and I think whenever he asked me to fight, I was 174.
Damn, you lost
and I was
80 pounds almost.
Yeah,
damn, girl, good job.
It was awesome. Yeah, it's all back on. It's fine. But anyway, yay, real life.
Listen, I know how you feel.
Preach. So I was like, sure, I can do it. I'd only sparred 3-4 times. And they're like, we'll get you ready. You'll be fine. And I'm awesome at hitting mitts. I have so much fun. I'm an awesome like drilling partner. Then we go live and everything I know falls out of my head. And so that goes back to that night. So we're there. I'm all, greased up and we're going for weigh-ins. And I've watched all my guys been weighing in. And what do you guys do? Strip down to your underwear.
For amateur boxing, you don't do that.
Right.
They didn't tell that? Nope. So you're walking in your like underwear and they're like, where'd they find this lady?
I took my scale to work. I was weighing in on scales if I could drink water or not drink water that day. Had to fight that night. Had to weigh in same day. To watch my boys.
Did you ever cut weight before ever in your life? This was your first time?
No, yes. And weight for girls is a whole different beast.
Yeah.
And so I was on weight all day. It was fine. I was taking sips. I show up there and I'm in my tank top and shorts, but I had my sweatpants and hoodie on to warm up. So I get up there, I take off my hoodie, and then I take off my pants. And I'm on the scale, and I start to pull off my shirt, and these three old guys sitting, they're like, no.
You're good.
They're like, you're fine, just get off the scale. We can do that if we
You
need
made
to.
weight, just go.
You're fine. They were terrified. I was like, sorry. But I remember walking out with Aaron Brown by my side, and he just tracked me the whole way and made sure I was never alone. And I got in the ring, and Steve said, your jab's longer than hers. Just keep her way with your jab. Have fun, kiddo. And then the bell went off, and I forgot everything I know.
Did you start brawling?
No, she did though. I was like, here's my jab. And I'd throw a jab and she'd throw a cross and I'd eat it. And I'd throw a jab and she'd throw a cross. And I remember thinking, there was something else I was supposed to do with this hand. There wasn't a parry. There was nothing. At the end of the first round, Steve goes, you having fun? I go,
fuck no.
I don't know what's happening right now. And he's like, you're doing great.
Did it shock you how fast it went by?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think I took well, first of all, it was 90-second rounds because it's
doesn't matter.
Amateur boxing.
Fun fact, doesn't matter. When I was an amateur and I did 3-minute rounds, when I was a pro, 5-minute rounds felt the same. Pro felt a little longer, like at least from what I could tell, but I tell every fighter when I go to corner them, I go, fighting is the weirdest thing because it feels like forever. Because you get there at 5, you're not fighting till 8 or 9. If you're the main event, not till 10 or 11, and then it is over before you know it. And that's if it goes the distance. It is just the weirdest thing where 5 minutes or 3 minutes can feel like 30 seconds, and you are exhausted in the first 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Every fight I ever had, I was huffing and puffing after the first minute.
I think I forgot to breathe.
Yeah.
But all I know
anxiety, adrenaline.
I had a lot of plans. Second round, I was like, look, I know what to do with this hand, and I'm going to throw combos now. Why do I keep throwing one punch? I'm just going to follow it up. I'm going to jab cross. I'm going to hook. I'm going to slip whatever she throws. I'm going to come back, hook her to the body, hook her to the head. It's going to be great. I'm going to step off. If I need a Tyson shift, I'm going to do it. Right? I got all these plans. I'm like, jab, boom, and I step on her foot, and she takes her foot back, and I fall down.
Oh no!
10-8 count. I was like, I just lost.
Really? They counted that against you?
Mm-hmm. And so then they're like, you're gonna have to do something really big this next round. I don't have anything really big in my pocket. We're just really thankful Megan was there. When I was done, I'm like, I'm 38 years old. I have a master's degree and 2 kids. I should probably not get punched in the head much more.
But that's still really fucking cool that you did it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. My daughter has my second place trophy in her room. She thinks I'm the coolest mom for getting second place. I didn't tell her there's only 2 people.
Fighting is one of those things where it does feel like total victory or absolute defeat. However, now that I've kind of stepped out of it and I'm retired, like I'm done, I look back on it and I wish I would have known what it was like to be the spectator before I ever fought. Really? Because now I have such an affinity and respect for everybody. Win, lose, draw. I just want to make sure that it's competitive. I hate seeing lopsided fights. Yeah, I hate. That's not fun to me. And what's funny is I'm a fighter, and there was this girl fight that happened in the last NFA, and I didn't enjoy watching it because it was definitely like one girl was just walking into punches and getting fucked up. And it's funny because I love brain trauma as much as the next man, but whenever I saw that, I was like, okay, I don't like this. And it's not because they were women. It was because there was one girl unanswered teeing off on another girl, and I was like, I like it when it's competitive. I don't like it when it's not. But I still have like respect for both of them because I know what it's like to cut weight. I know what it's like to do a camp. I know what it's like to give up going out with friends and family. You didn't go to that dinner. You didn't go to that birthday party. It's a sacrifice, man. And I just wish I would have known that when I was still a competitor, because when I was a competitor, I thought either I'm the shit or I'm a shit. No. There's no middle ground. You know what I mean? That's how I felt. Sure. I wish if I could go back, I would have told myself, like, brother, there's a lot of people out there, win, lose, or draw, they'll respect you and they love you no matter what.
Absolutely. So. My least favorite thing on Facebook is to see fighters apologize for losing.
I love that though,
Oh, why?
because that means they care. If they don't, they need to quit.
You don't.
If you don't feel bad for losing, if you don't feel like you've let people down, that means you're not doing this for a higher cause. Every fight.
Are we the higher cause?
Yes,
Okay.
of course. Your loved ones? Ask Sean why he fights. I'm sure a part of it is like, he loves fighting and he wants to make like a living and all this other stuff, but I'm sure a part of it is also he wants to take care of his mom. I'm sure a part of it is like he wants to make enough money to marry Janan.
Janan.
Sorry. Forgive me. Janan, and like one day they probably want to have kids and all this other stuff. How do you do this unless you win fights and make money and all this other stuff? So when he loses, I guarantee you he probably says sorry to at least one person. He might not make a post about it.
And my thing is, you can be hard on yourself, but it is the win and learn, right? You did lose. We all agree. But just like in business, in my failures, I've learned more from my failures than I have from my successes. And there's a place for that. And so you need to be able to learn
Yeah, but that's
from your losses.
special though, Megan, because a lot of people fail and then they eat like
And they quit.
or
Yes.
or they lose in fighting and they don't learn from it. So like you might take that as a win or learn scenario. That's not everybody.
Yeah.
I think that's a skill set.
Maybe that's where my expectation is of people then, right?
In what respect? Like they think like you?
Yeah, sure, obviously. I like those people the best. No, but that people have the ability to learn from mistakes, failures, losses.
Have you ever met a narcissist?
Yeah, unfortunately. I draw them very near because I'm an empath.
That's your type?
I like to hold them close and make them feel safe and feel important. I'm a giver.
Everyone has a mommy fetish.
Golly bless.
Oh, Jesus. Before we get on to that part of the conversation, I did want to touch up on some of the business acumen, if you don't mind. One of the things I did want to ask you is, you've been in this game now for a minute. What are some of the goals that you have now at this point of your tenure as an entrepreneur versus like the start? Because obviously when you're starting, the goals and the measurements are like so vastly different from when you're in the shit, like in the game the way you are now. So like it could be something as simple as like pay off all those business loans. It could be something as grand as I want to open up 5 locations. What are some of the things that you have on the roadmap or some of the things that you're just kind of eyeing or would like to get done?
Yeah, the goal that has remained unmet since the beginning has been time freedom. I did not have the gift of being able
Great answer.
Yeah, to be able to stay home with my kids. It was a choice at the time. My husband would have supported it, and I was bringing home bank at the time. And as parents, they don't give you a handbook, right? So I didn't have a skill set very early on with little bitty babies that I needed to feel successful somewhere, and so I chose to go back to work financially after 6 weeks. And after my second kid...
After your first kid, you went back to work after 6 weeks.
Yes, and after my second, I went back at 13 weeks, and that was painful. And at that point, the greatest gift I was given was my mom staying home. She quit working. She was a teacher. She quit working until my sister and I were school-aged. Then she went back to teaching, so all of her friends were retiring 8 years before her, and she put in her 31 years in teaching and did that for us, and that was a sacrifice she created.
God bless Mom.
I never knew a time when I didn't have a parent at home. And my dad was a lawyer. He died when I was 18 in a car accident, but he was a lawyer that became...
I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
Thank you. He became a judge, so he could be like, court's dismissed, my daughter's got a volleyball game. And so from 12 on, my dad was present for all of my sporting events, and sometimes it was divide and conquer, where mom was going to one kid and dad was coming to the other, and vice versa. So I was so supported in family, and that's the thing I long to give to my own children. And I say this to my 14-year-old all the time. I said, you are a glorified science experiment. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. The things I know truly is I am meant to be your mom. I was chosen to have you. You're mine. No one will love you more than me on this planet. And I'm really, really good at apologizing to my kids. Hey, I shouldn't have blown up on that. I love you. Made me scared. I came at you kind of hard. This is what I should have said in that moment. Will you forgive me? And them seeing their mom as humbled and someone who isn't perfect. I'm not on some pedestal with them. Allows me to have very real, beautiful conversations. And granted, they're 12 and 14, so they're an age where they can. My 12-year-old, if I put her out in the world right now, she would take over. Like, she would be just fine. My 14-year-old son, in 3 to 5 days, would be living on a street with a cardboard sign. Or
maybe not.
Maybe not. I always tell him he's so beautiful I could child traffic him and pay off all my debts, but I won't because I love
Given
him.
our current political landscape, that's not a joke anymore.
I know. But I like to scare him just a little bit so they appreciate how
hey,
good
there's
they
a
have
market.
it. Yeah, stay home. Stay home. You're too pretty to go out. So
That's funny that you say that because they're also my daughter's only 2.5, so by no metric do I feel like I understand because your kids are much older than mine and you've had more experience than me. But one of the things that did surprise me was I did not realize how short my fuse was. Because I feel like in a lot of aspects in life, I like to think of myself as like not an emotional man. I do things very logically.
Oh, okay.
When it comes to, okay, that's a,
I was like, my eyebrows got big for a reason.
yeah, well,
Because you're extremely passionate and that shows.
passion in things that I think that are above me are a reflection of how much I care for something. And perhaps that is why I have a short fuse with my daughter. Because what you resonated with, there is nothing on this planet that eclipses her. She is, I told my wife, I was like, I love you, but I really love her.
Mm-hmm.
Like the love that I have for my daughter, I didn't think it was possible.
Yeah, you didn't know about.
Yeah. I love Dr. Pepper. I love my mom. I love my
Oh,
dad.
that's right. You are
Yeah,
Dr. Pepper.
I'm a
kid.
Dr. Pepper guy. There's one in the fridge if you want one.
I should have been like, hello, here's your Dr. Pepper.
please, thank God, don't. But it was one of the things that kind of, it was something I learned about myself that I don't like, and that I have to actively. It's not like I can turn off the switch. It is ever present. I am always so fucking annoyed at so many things regarding the rearing of children. I didn't realize that I am such a judgmental father. And because I see so many parents doing
Obviously,
shit
against other parents.
against other parents and against myself. There's a lot of times where I get angry at myself for falling short. I'll be honest with you. When I asked you about like what your metrics for like success or the goals are, for you to say time management and like essentially like a work-life balance so that you can spend more time with your children, that is the best fucking answer. That is the only answer as far as I'm concerned.
That's my first job.
Yeah, it's like the destination for you and I are the same, and maybe I do want to get into this on the podcast because I think the exact same thing you do, but I think I'm getting my goal to get to that is to be so supremely successful that every business that I have runs itself and that I'm simply there to like move this lever to the right a little bit and this isn't being good, so let me take this person out and put this person in. I had this conversation with one of my producers where they were like, do you think you'll ever retire? I was like, I think by the age of 40 I will never work. Like I'll be done working, but I will work on my own projects till the day that I die. And that's just because I want to get to a point where I have so much abundance in so many different industries, different things, that then I can be like, guys, I'm going to be out for 2 weeks. You handle this because that's what I hired you to do. You handle that because that's what I hired you to do. And I'm okay bringing home the pennies, but then I can spend all my fucking time with my kids and travel. It's actually a point of contention with my wife right now because we're going to Europe in August, and this is like our first like family vacation. Not our first family vacation because we went to Mexico last year, but like the vacation that Bruno wants to have.
Yeah,
like,
right.
let's spend the fucking money. Okay, we'll spend the money. But like I'm having like an allergic reaction because we're gonna be in Europe for 15 days, and like everybody I've told is like, dude, have fun, all this other stuff. And my response to them is like, for 15 days, everything I have back here just like stands still, or at the very least, I'm not like on it. You know what I mean? And I'm having like this like existential crisis of like, I'm not in charge. Oh my God, what if something happens?
I was
I'm
just
not
going to say,
there.
it comes down to control.
Oh my
right?
God.
And that's the big thing.
I just don't trust anybody to handle my babies the way I would handle my babies. That's the thing. And by the way, no one will because they're not their babies. And I'm okay with that.
Correct. I was going to say, so when you ask what I want to do to kind of like leverage where I'm at and move on, I teach nationwide the technique that I utilize in my business. It's called the muscle release technique. And so
I didn't know that.
I've reached out to the company that owned the rights previously in the process of purchasing it, and they're graciously allowing me to do that. Like as I teach, as I make money, they are getting their cut back until I pay them off in full.
Is that written down? Mm-hmm. Okay, thank God.
Yeah. And so
You'd be surprised at how many people do handshake deals, and I'm like, you're an idiot.
they are absolutely incredible humans, and they write down everything they say.
God bless.
So it'll be the thing that changes my life with my family.
God bless.
Essentially, it's the second income on a single parent family.
The residual from.
So
Are you recording this?
So I go live and I teach all over. Like my next one's supposed to be in Omaha, Chicago. The next one's supposed to be in Chicago. Then I have Phoenix and Dallas. And so I travel nationwide teaching massage therapists, chiropractors, athletic trainers, whoever. I have one come up in Kansas City for a group of athletic trainers. I do private events, and it's a 3-day continuing education workshop. And this business stands to make me 4 times what I currently make.
Well, how did you get into this
And
out of curiosity?
Yeah, so when I became a massage therapist, the very first continuing education class I took was for Michael Young in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and he offended me so greatly. I'm a front row sitter, I'm a note taker, I'm a super nerd, straight A student kind of kid, and he asked me questions about stretching, and I had just graduated with my master's degree in PT, and I raised my hand to answer the question. He went, wrong, and went on to the next person. I was kind of like, focus, excuse me, sir, like, you don't know what I know, like, tons of hubris, tons of ego.
How old were you?
23.
Woo! Young, dumb, and not full of cum in this instance.
You
But
got it. Thank you. And so I was super fired up and like, you don't know what I know, sir. And he was I've said this in front of Michael, my mentor, before. I'm like, he was an ex-contractor, like bricklayer turned massage therapist who now thinks he knows everything. And I have a master's degree from St. Louis University. Sir, don't step to me about science. There's 2 things that'll piss me off really fast: talking about my kids and acting like I don't know what I'm saying when it comes to the human body. Those 2 things I will go to war about.
it's your passion.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
you
it,
got a
yeah.
short fuse
My
sometimes
nostrils
too.
flare.
Yeah.
You know, when I get my nostrils start flaring, that's when you should start backing up and stop making direct eye contact. Anyway, so I'm working with Michael. He shuts me down. So I kind of, with my pen, and I sit like this for 2.5 days of learning under this guy. The 3rd day, I was training for a marathon, half marathon at the time, and had an IT band friction syndrome. And he draws names out of a hat on which student he's going to demonstrate on. He drew my name out. He did the technique on my leg, and my pain was gone. Shit. Can you please repeat what you've been saying for the last 3 days, sir? And so I ended up taking his course 6 months later, became a teaching assistant for him, and in 2015 I started teaching individually, and then he retired. So I'm the last one in the nation who teaches.
Do you still talk to him?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is he like still a mentor to you, or
No.
why do you say no?
No. Because he
You don't bounce ideas off of him?
No, we fire from 2 different places. He's old school, and old school worked for him. But he's so old school, he doesn't know how
It's a different time.
to move things forward. And so he has so much success, and I'll always give him props for what he built because I get to continue to build off of it. So he is the foundation, and I'll never take that away from him.
But not the future.
Correct.
Does he know that?
Yep.
God bless him then.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that try to hold on too long.
He was beautiful enough to write me an endorsement and say, if you ever want me to come teach a workshop alongside you, I'll come work alongside you. And
beautiful.
out of all my students, I'm glad it's you.
Don't you think that's the natural progression of life? Is like, we are the students, we become the teacher. We never stop being the students. Let me preface it with that.
There you go.
But you start as a student, become like someone in the industry, whatever that industry is, eventually become a teacher. Perhaps you become a world-class teacher, and then you have to exit stage right? Like that. Then you have to know when it's time to step down. I think that's really fucking hard.
That's what I'm saying. Because when it becomes your identity, especially for men, not saying that women don't hold on to identities as well, but when it comes to business with men, whenever you hand off the torch, that's why it's so sexy when guys are like, I will give it to my son, because it makes you feel like you're passing down a legacy and you're still in it. It's because of you, instead of handing off to the next guy that's just better than you, or just as good. Going into scripture in the Bible, Paul the apostle always believed that you should have a mentor, a colleague, and someone you're mentoring.
I agree.
And those are the 3 relationships in your life. And so I've always carried that with me, that like, when I stop, who am I mentoring right now? Who am I growing? Who am I investing in? Who's walking alongside me? And who can I seek counsel?
Would you consider the people that you're teaching through these like meetings and teachings, would you consider that mentorship?
Absolutely.
I don't.
Oh, I do. Because I'm a ripple in the pond with a technique, and they have access to me afterwards.
Do you feel like they're utilizing that to the utmost capabilities?
Absolutely not. A few do. A few.
Well, that's what I think creates the mentor, though, because personally, this is anecdotal. Feel free to tell me to eat shit.
No.
If these people do not know or do not realize they are being mentored, then you're not a mentor.
Well, and my thing is, I create the opportunity for them to be mentored.
Okay.
Whether they choose that or not, it's up to them.
Then that's not mentorship, right? That's like you're trying, but if they don't bite,
I'm creating the opportunity for that. Yes.
Has anyone bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. So, okay, so forgive me. You are a mentor to some, but not to all. Forgive me.
Correct. Otherwise, it is just a contractual agreement that for these next 3 days, you're going to listen to me, you're going to pay me this money, and you're going to do what you want with that technique. But people who fall in love with the technique have been like, I've had people come and work alongside me at SubZero. Can I shadow you for 3 or 4 days? Will you come to my business? Can we do and then we grow each other that way.
Does your mentorship extend past the initial dialogue regarding, massage therapy and physical therapy and things like that? do you also kind of extrapolate to possibly entrepreneurship, business ownership, marketing, what have you?
Yes, absolutely. On how to step out and how to. Some people are trying to leave the massage and bees of the world, hang their own shingle, how to transition out, how
God
far of a leap
bless.
to take. You know,
It's scary.
so it can be. It can be. But then that's where hopefully my mistakes and the things I've learned, it may turn out differently for them, but I can do the same thing you did for the guy at the watch party and go, hey, but did you consider this? And that's all we can do is offer. And I always say you can lead a horse to water, but you can't hold it under until it bubbles and stops breathing, because that's what I want to do half the time. You know, it's like if you don't listen to me, this isn't going to go well. You know, but it's their choice.
I did not fancy myself a mentor, definitely not so early in my life because I'm only 32. But I had a high school wrestler who is such an exceptional human being. Forgive me, do you mind closing that door? He gives me a lot of like positive outlook for the future, because I'm like, dude, you're so far above where I was at that age. And he's so sharp and it fucking clicks. And I think to myself, like, okay, if I can help someone like you, even 5% value add, fuck yeah. Like I did it. And it's not that I was looking for that. It just kind of stumbled upon it. Like I started out like interacting with him, and then like minds, then we correlated to like he's one of my producers now, you know what I mean? Because he's gonna go to college here, and I this is gonna sound so stupid, but like one of the things that I want to do is grow one of my businesses. I have 4 years. I want to grow one of my businesses to the point where I can hire him right out of college, because I want to keep him like
That's
around.
amazing.
I want to keep him around me because I think he's going to be a value add to me. I think he's going to eclipse me. By the time he's 35, he's going to be so far ahead of me that like it'll be one of those things where I'm like, thanks, kid. Like, sky's the limit for you, and I just want to be around for that. It's not like it's the most pure thing I've ever done, in the sense of it's the same way I feel about mentoring him is the same way I feel about fathering my child, where it's like, you will be better than me, not because I'm going to force it upon you. You're going to do whatever it is that you want to do. But when I'm done, when I'm no longer here, you will be able to like flourish and grow, and you will stand on our shoulders and hit new highs. And this is why I do think that everyone should have children, even though not everyone should have children.
I
But I
understand.
do think that having children kind of opens your eyes to like, what is this all for? And it's so that we took one, we added one, we'll leave two, they'll add one, they'll get three, and that's the whole point of this shit. At least that's what I think.
Yeah, I think I heard it once that someone said that the weight of responsibility is what really grows a man from boy to manhood. Because some of it, and your experience may not be the same, some of it is we go into marriages full of hope and dreamy and not knowing what it really takes, and not having a skill set for conflict resolution, for speaking our needs, for meeting our needs, for all those things. And when you're responsible for another human being, aka your wife, and like you said earlier, not from a competition standpoint, but if you want to be the head of the household, then you need to lead in every area, even financially. And that's your drive and your goal as a husband. It changes your priorities. It forces you to think of things differently.
The only caveat is I don't necessarily think I need to lead in all aspects. I think that there are things that she is just fundamentally better than
Sure.
at me. Sorry, better than me. Forgive me. And I'm not competing on every front, and I'm not competing at all. But what it is more than anything is I cannot look my wife in the eye and say that I should steer this ship if I'm not doing everything possible to put into this ship. If she's making $500 a year and I'm doing everything that I can, I'm running the businesses, I'm doing all this other stuff, I'm really trying to flourish as a man, and I can't hit that number, okay. But I still want her to see that, like, this guy is putting
So
it
you
in.
want her to see and respect your hustle, your drive, your commitment?
I want her to know that I'm the man she signed up for. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Because she's the woman that I signed up for. She's an excellent mother. She's great, this, that, or the other, and she deserves all the things that she wants. So now I am receiving the benefits of what I wanted in this relationship. Now there's benefits she wants in this relationship.
You're
So
trying
now
to
I
share
have
the same.
responsibilities. Like, okay, you want this, you want that. You know what? You deserve it. You want the vacation? Okay, we'll do the vacation. Like, do I want to do it? No. Like, do I want to do other things? Yes. But do you deserve it? Should I do this? Yes. And take that, extrapolate it to other variables. It's the same thing. And the thing I tell everybody about relationships, perhaps I'm wrong. It's like, stop looking for people to make you happy. You know what I
Okay.
mean? You should go into a relationship happy. You should look for relationships to amplify your happiness. If you're sad, if you're unhappy, if you're fat, if you're this or you're that, there's no one on this planet that's going to change that for you.
Correct. So I'm going to change the word happy to complete.
Yeah,
So
that's a good one. I like that.
Because I think the biggest, like Jerry Maguire was so the rage back in the day because you complete me. And I think that's the biggest crock of horseshit. And we have turned romantic comedies into how love should be, and it's not how it works. I think a whole complete person, you should come complete. And this is the language I use in my relationship. Look, I got a bucket and my bucket's full of holes and you pour into my bucket, it's all going to fall out. That was a bad investment, emotionally, time, whatever it is in me, because I am not taking care of the thing that you've given me. My goal is to have a whole bucket, fill it up myself. So like I said, be happy yourself, be fulfilled yourself, be content, know who you are, but come complete. All I want from my partner is if I start springing a leak to be like, hey babe, bucket's got a hole. You might want to tend to that. I want someone who knows me well enough that when I am less than myself or I'm living, I would say like apart from who I am, you're like, I'm getting too stressed out, too tired, I'm getting crabby, I'm getting, this isn't you, what's going on? I want him to ask the question so I can go, I don't know, let me look. That's on me to fix. That's on me to address. So I'm not looking for someone to complete me. I'm looking for my complement. And you said
that's very emotionally intelligent.
And you said amplify, which I agree with because
well, because my wife does. You said that like responsibility is the variable that turns a boy into a man. I agree. Well, then what's the variable that turns a man into a better man? His partner.
yeah.
Bruna could have been the anchor and dragged me down, or she could have been the ladder in which when I met her, I was making 80K a year. I was living in a 1-bedroom apartment and I was content. I was like,
Good enough.
I'm doing fine. I'm paying my bills. I got money in the bank. I have my own private brokerage, like living the dream. You know what I mean? 70% of America's in debt. I'm crushing it. And that was the first woman that's like, wait a second. Like, I can do more. Ariane, you're so smart. Like, why are you doing this? You're right. I am smart. Why am I doing this? Like, you could be doing more. You're right. I could be doing more. I'll never forget this day. It was the day where I had a meeting at my FP&A job. I was doing a financial plan and analysis. And it was like this meeting where I was like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? So I went into the living room. I go, hey, I'm going to quit my job. And she's like, this is during COVID, by the way. So we're living together, isolated, all this other stuff. I go, I'm going to quit my job. And she's like, do you have another job lined up? I go, no, I don't think I want to work in finance anymore. Which, like, for me to say that, that's what I got my degree in. Hey, it's like me telling my girlfriend at the time, who we've talked about all these things and we want to get married and all this other stuff. Hey, I'm going to do a hard pivot. Like, everything you just thought about me, I'm going to do a hard pivot. I'm going to switch roles, switch my whole life. And she's like, well, what do you want to do? I go, I don't know, but I know that I'm going to figure it out. My wife looked me in the eyes and goes, okay, I got this meeting in 2 minutes. Have fun.
Trust and belief in you.
Quit that job that day. I set up 4 p.m. with my boss. I go, hey, just wanted to let you know, fucking hate my job. I hate my life. I'm out. So I'm going to give you 2 weeks and then I'm out. And he was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Anyway, I remember I was so scared because I was like, what if I don't want to go into finance? What did I just spend the last 5 years of my life doing and all this sacrifice and all this other stuff? And I also felt kind of guilty because my mom had died. And one of the things she wanted for us was like to go to school and be okay. And it's like, am I letting my mom down? What am I doing? And I realized that I had like an affinity for technology and data and all these other things. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to do information systems. I'm going to try to broaden myself into technologies and stuff like that. I was so scared that first day. When I tell you, I found like there was like 6 offers by the end of that week. That was a Monday. By Friday, I had 6 offers. And by the time it came to get paid, I didn't even miss a pay cycle.
That's amazing.
And I remember thinking how scared I was. And if I would have walked in that room, because remember, I got off the meeting and then I told Bruna, I was like, I'm going to quit my job. If my girlfriend at the time said, no, are you kidding me? This is what you went to school for. Get back in there and
You be hating your
buckle
life
down,
right
you
now.
know? I probably would have. And we wouldn't be here today. I guarantee you we wouldn't be here today. But because she responded to me in the way she did, whether she knew it or not, whether she like saw it, maybe she texted her sister and was like, I'm about to leave Arion. You know what I mean? I don't know that. All I know is she did exactly what I needed when I needed it. So now I have a reverence for her forever. It changed my life that one day. And like I said, had she been the kind of person that required me to be everything or required me to be the source of her everything, I don't think it would have worked. I picked a woman that was so supremely successful on her own.
And self-assured.
Dude, the most confident woman I know.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, Bruna deserves her roses. The biggest pain in my ass, in the best way, if that makes sense, because she refuses to have me fall short. She will not allow me to be lesser than. And I can see how for some guys listening to this, that could be like, oh, your lady's like bitching at you and all this other stuff. I just don't see it that way. I feel like when she looks at me, she sees what I can be. And when I look at me, I see what is. And I think that's the best part of my relationship with my wife and what I have is like, it's so hard. It's constant work. It's sacrifice from her. I'm sure if I sat her down or you sat her down, I'm sure I'm so hard to be with because I'm constantly like this idea, that idea, we're going to do this. And like, I'm sure she just wants me like at sometimes to just like, hey, can we just like hang out as a family? You know what I mean? Sure. But I think she also sees like why I'm doing it. Like the goal is like, I'm not working for anybody at 40. I got 8 years. Let me fucking cook. Mm-hmm. And I have the woman that is like,
letting you cook.
Let me cook.
Yeah.
But she believes in me.
Right. And she can hold down the fort.
I used to stay up at night when I was 18 years old and like cry because I was so petrified of the future. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to be a loser. Am I going to go to school? What am I going to do? I just don't want to be a loser. When I think about my life now, I laugh at like the anxiety that I had. I'm so fucking blessed. I'm so blessed. And I know it. It's not just me. I'm not like some, intellectual, supercharged person. No, I got really fucking lucky. But luck is where preparation meets opportunity. And I was fucking prepared for every opportunity that I had.
You were on my table when you told me you were going to propose to her.
Yeah.
That's the very last time I worked on you. But you were so fired up and you had decided and you were telling like this is the one. I'm going to marry this woman. She's like, you were, like I said, you were so complimentary of her and you were so all in and dialed in on her because you knew who she was and what she brought to the table. Yeah. And I think
and more importantly, I knew that she accepted. I never like lied to her. Like I wasn't like, this is me. Mm-hmm. At any moment, she could have been like, not enough, not what I want, bye-bye. But she wasn't. So I was like, oh, fuck me. Like, thanks. Appreciate that.
I'm probably going to ruin this when I say this. I saw it on Facebook the other day. It said, like, you didn't fall in love with this person because of how they made you feel. You fell in love with this person because of who you're allowed to be with them. Yes. And you were allowed to be yourself. Yeah. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people settle for is the high emotions of infatuation and lust and all the yummy feelings in the beginning. And everybody puts on their...
Well, that's important, though.
There's a place for that.
Because how do you accept everybody's bullshit if not for that teaser rate? I look at relationships as adjustable rate mortgages. I get in at 3%, and it's great, so that when it's 8%, I'm still willing to pay the mortgage.
You are so romantic.
I know. Gosh. I'm not. The first 3 months of our relationship, I was like, hey, I'm 25. I want kids. I don't want to waste my time. This is what I have to offer. This is the kind of guy I think I am. This is what I'm going to give you. What do you want? Is this in line with you? That was the first 3 months of our relationship. I would not advise anybody to do it the way I did, but it worked for us. And then after that, off to the races. Now,
There's two things there. You knew what you wanted, and you weren't afraid to give a voice.
Well, I also knew my worth and what I could offer. That was the other thing.
So your bucket's whole.
Yeah, maybe.
It might not have been full.
Yeah.
But it wasn't full of holes.
I would make the argument that if it wasn't for Bruna, my life would be just so different. So I don't know if that's why I say the word amplify, because she did amplify me. I'm just a better guy. I really am. I would not want to see what I would have become without her.
Perfect.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was like,
that's the dream.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I was like, that's the dream. That's what we hope to find in another person. It goes back to that idea of me with being on a team. I don't need to be the one in the ring fighting. I can be the corner. I can be the healer behind the scenes. I just want to be a part of something bigger than myself. And then it goes to my relationships. Like, I don't want to be number one. I want to be someone's number one. I'm comfortable being the helpmeet. I'm comfortable being, and Sandra Morgan gave a talk the other day about being the umbrella, and that women are, like men are the umbrella that are sheltering from the storm, but it takes someone to hold it. And like he's taking the beating. I was like, he's sheltering the family, the kids, the whatever, but you got to hold the umbrella. And then someone else said, if the man's the head, then the wife's the one that turns the neck. And so not that I have control, but I have a say too. I'm not trying to be like subservient and passive and all these
You're the
things.
only one that has a say. Believe me when I say that. I have a bunch of people around me that are all chirping. My wife's opinion is sometimes the only one that matters. And Bruna knows that when I go, hey, I need you to sit down for a second. She's like, oh, shit.
She's dialed in.
Oh, yeah. She's like, okay,
yeah.
let me put the baby to bed. We'll talk in 30 minutes. I go, thank you. Sit down. What are you thinking? This is the conversation I had. This is what they're offering. What are you worried about? Well, I'm not really sure about this. Ariane, if you're not sure about that, you're onto something. She's my best, like, she's a partner. And let me put it this way. When I was doing the podcast, for instance, like as a starter, I was like, this is what I'm thinking about doing. This is going to kind of start as a passion project. And she was like, no, it's not. She's like, I know you. Like, it's going to start as a passion project, then you're going to go overboard. So then she was like, are you willing to spend 5 years on it? That's what she asked me. And I was like,
great question.
I was like, dude, you're the second guest that I'm going to show this to. Because this is a gift from her. And forgive me, this is going to be kind of loud, but never forget
Why you're doing this.
That was her gift. And I was like, because I was telling her, I was like, I'm probably going to put a chessboard on there. I like chess. And she's like, cool, I'll buy you one.
I like her so much.
Dude, Bruna's the shit.
Yeah.
Bruna's the shit. And sometimes I feel like she just knows me better than I know me, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm just like going on and on. Forgive me.
Well, no, but she has a front row seat to you.
Yeah.
And she has a front row seat because you gave it to her.
Yeah.
And so some of the language that I utilize is I get too distracted by voices. I used to give everyone's voice the same amount of weight in my life. Recovering people pleaser. So somebody would walk out of massage and be like, yeah, I feel kind of better, but I don't know. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, I don't feel better. Am I bad at my job? Like, it would send me down a spiral. And I would follow up and what do you need and how can I help? And
was it taking work home with you, or do you think that's who you are as a person?
both. It's who I am as a person unchecked. So I feel like when your strength unchecked becomes your greatest weakness.
Yeah, agreed.
So when you're coming at Bruna all passion and all the things blazing and she asks 2 questions to bring you right back down to focus you, right? She's your check.
Yeah.
And so there's the power in that. So I used to give everyone equal weight, their voice and equal weight. And I told the example of like, I'm a castle and I'm the prize inside the castle. But instead of having the drawbridge up and the moat full of alligators, my drawbridge is down and people are having like pool floaties and margaritas and hanging out and everyone's just pillaging. Everybody's just taking what they want from the castle. And I'm up here like, does anybody know you don't care that I'm here and I'm tired but I let that. I didn't bring the drawbridge up. I didn't put alligators out there. I'm the one that threw the party. But when the tequila ran out, so did everyone else.
Yeah.
So again, I had to learn my lesson the hard way that not everyone deserves access to me. And I don't mean that in a bad way because you nailed it on the head early on. Like, I believe in people and I love to believe in people. I like to believe in people more than they believe in themselves. I love their stories. I want to hear it. I want to be a part of it. I want to help in any way I can. But not all of them are there for me to help. Because every time I gave away a piece of myself to someone else here, it was less I could give to my kids. And at the end of the day, it's less than I gave to me. And so my bucket wasn't whole. It was full of cracks and tired and exhausted, and anything poured in just poured right out. So I wasn't being good for me, which meant I couldn't be really truly good for anyone. And so taking care of myself first, I felt selfish. And then the cheesy example is always you can't pour from an empty cup.
I think that's true though.
It is. I say cheesy because it's all cliches you've heard 100 times until you find the one that like rocks your world. Somebody said you have to put your mask on first to breathe.
Selective bias.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm like, that sounds cheesy. That sounds cheesy, but they're all right. And so it felt selfish. And I'm like, no, it's self-preservation. And so I had to protect me first so I can give to those.
But I also think that's exactly what needs to happen. How can you go up to someone and say, "Here's what I'm offering," if what you're offering is damage? I didn't pursue my wife like when I was in college or whatever because I was broke. I waited until I had like I made the assessment of like 1 bedroom apartment or whatever, but I was doing fine. Like I was perfectly okay. Like
Sure.
if she didn't choose me, I would have been fine. But luckily for me, she did choose me. But like I think that's where I say the comment that I had previous where it's like you can't be unhappy. You can't look for someone to solve your problems. You have to solve your problems. And they don't have to all be solved when you find someone, but the mentality is that you're going to solve them. And I didn't know it at the time because I thought all my problems were solved, but then that whole like pivot of like my whole career was rearing its head. So that was a problem that I didn't even know that I was going to have to solve. Luckily for me, I had the woman that was like, you can solve it. I believe in you. I guess my question for you, before we go down this road, I have a question before I have a question, but
Sure.
I want to be very careful how I ask this because this is very personal. At the highest of levels, why did your marriage not work? Without details, like I'm looking
Sure.
more theory, not application. And remember, you can tell me to go eat shit. You don't have to answer any questions you don't want to.
No. I can only own my piece of that answer. And a lot of that was what I went into marriage expecting. I didn't give voice to, which turned into him failing to meet expectations that he didn't know existed. Right? So it's already set up for failure.
You didn't communicate.
Correct. Because I didn't want to be a naggy wife, and I didn't want to be a bitchy wife, and I didn't want to be a controlling wife. So he was always willing to help if I asked, but I had to ask. So I always felt like I was leading. And so the more I led, the less he initiated because I was already handling it. So I created a situation where I was doing everything and then feeling exhausted and feeling run through.
Did you ever sit
the
down and
time.
communicate that?
Poorly.
Yeah.
Several different times because by the time I was ready to give voice to something, I didn't have the skill set to give voice in a way that
Positive
was
way.
willing to be heard. It was like, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, why don't you do anything? And I became the thing I didn't want to be, which was crabby and bitchy and tired.
How old were you when you met your first husband?
My only husband.
Well,
30,
hold up. If we play
30.
our cards right.
30.
So 30 was when you met him.
I met him in the late 20s, but we got married at 30.
Got you. Married at 30.
And that's something that he and I said very openly to each other. Like, we both had our full lives established, both had homes, both had mortgages, both had
You
cars.
guys were functioning adults.
We were. And so the idea of two rivers running downstream when they converge, there's rapids before they learn how to go smooth down the hill, right? And our rapids just kept going. And we got smooth for a while. And then we had kids in, which is a whole new level of, I like to do it this way, you like to do it that way.
Holy shit. Can
kids-
we double click on that?
Sure.
Because I want to be very careful how I say this. There have been the greatest strife between me and my wife right now is actually nothing to do with us, but how we choose to rear our children.
Absolutely.
I didn't realize how much of a cunt I was as like just an individual. Like I'm like, no, this is the fucking way. Like, what are we talking about? You know what I mean? But forgive me. Mm-hmm. So you said that you had children and that there were sometimes variables in which you and your husband did not agree on.
Because of how he was raised versus how I was raised. So what was normal to him was what he was raised under. What was normal to me as the mom, I just assumed this is how we're going to do things. And then when he challenged me, I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
You know? And so, and then he would go, fine, then do it your way. So there was never a coming together and agreeing. And if I can say with all pleasure and joy now, he is the best co-parent I could ask for.
Really?
Now I'm in a completely different situation.
God bless.
And he's phenomenal. And he's hardworking. And I think a lot of it had to do with me just getting out of the way.
I want to be careful how I ask this. That's not salvageable in any way, is it? No, you don't think so?
No, I don't think I think there's mutual respect on both parts and mutual care. But I think both where we were in lives, we were looking for something for each other that was a really good fit for a while. And so we piecemealed some things together. And so I have the utmost respect for him and what he does for our kids and how he shows up for them. And he's not perfect and I'm not perfect, but I recently had a situation that had me kind of freak out as a mom with use of technology and my kids. And I called him to go like, I said, I need you to talk me down from this because I don't know what I'm reading here. I don't know what I'm seeing. How should we address this? And I brought him immediately into the conversation. And he was like, here's my 2 cents. Here's what I think. And then he said, you got this. Go do it. He said, go do it, mama. Call me if you need me. And I thought, that's so nice. Like that's more support than I experienced in my marriage that he didn't even know I was lacking. Because I think if you would ask him, he would say, I was willing to do whatever you wanted. But I felt like it was a passive thing. And I wanted to be led.
Can I add to that quote that you said earlier about responsibility being what turns a boy into a man? I think there's a variable in that.
Sure.
The responsibility he chooses. If you thrust responsibility on a man, on a boy, I actually don't think that makes him a man.
They'll buck a little bit.
I think what it does is it creates a rebellious teenager.
Yeah, they'll buck.
I chose all the burdens that I bear were self-inflicted. I knew what I was signing up for. And if someone would try to add to that, I tell them to go fuck themselves. Do you think that perhaps the variable in this was that the responsibility your ex-husband has now is something that he feels he's chosen?
Well, and I think it was kind of because of the divorce, it was thrust upon him in a way. He had no choice, but he's risen to the occasion because he chose to. You're right. He made a lot of changes that have been awesomely beneficial for him and for the kids and their relationship. So, like, I have so much respect for him, and yeah, I'm proud.
God bless.
Yeah.
Do you mind if we make a small pivot to... I've had a bunch of men on the podcast.
Okay.
From various walks of life, different age brackets, people as old as 60, people as young as 30, right? And I've heard so much about dating from girls and men, more men than girls, women and men. I shouldn't say girls, sorry. Women and men, but more so men. If there was a pie chart, it'd be like 80-20, right? I'd be interested to hear your experience because obviously you're looking for a partner. Let's start with that. What is a partner to you at this time in your life now?
Yeah, because the questions are a little different. I'm not looking for someone to father my kids. They have a father. I'm not looking for someone to have kids with. I'm past that phase. And I think that answer not necessarily changes, but starts to take a better form the more I heal and do work on myself. And kind of like I use the example of the full bucket and someone just being able to point out when I'm not being myself. I want to be known at the level, known and seen and heard and accepted, right? That's where it starts. And then for someone to say, hey, babe, this isn't you. What do you need to do to get yourself right? Can I help in any way? I don't want someone to take over for me. I don't want someone to do for me. I want someone to give me the space to do for myself and support in any way they can. I don't know if this is a little bit jaded, a little bit stubborn, a little bit independent woman in me, but I would say I'm not looking for a man to take care of me financially because I can do that for myself, but having someone else come in that would obviously ease burdens, right? Yeah. And I've said before I would ever consider being married again. There's questions I need to answer for myself of, and I'll say this in light of my dad dying. When my dad died, I had the beautiful, hard opportunity to watch my mom grieve. And I say, not fall down on the job, but have to pick up my dad's portion of the slack in the household, figure out how to thrive. And there were some fumbles early on with, when was that?
Well, yeah, because if you were 18, she couldn't have been more than 40, 45?
She was 44.
44, okay, yeah. So I was right on.
So she's widowed at 44, and has a 15-year-old and an 18-year-old.
At least 30 years if we're lucky, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm away at college, and she's home by herself, and she was in the car accident as well, and she was injured. And so we live on a farm with acreage and mowing lawns and paying bills, and my dad was a tax attorney before he was a judge, so he was all things finance, and my mom's extremely intelligent. She has the ability to do whatever needs to be done, but she hasn't had to do it. So she had to learn new skills. And so I watch her fall apart, pick herself back up. And I remember thinking naively, I want to never need a man. I want to have the privilege of wanting to have one in my life. But I want to know how to change my tire. I want to know how to drive a stick. I want to know how to change. Did
you become the man that you wanted?
Yeah, I'm awesome. And I'm not happy because I'm a woman. And I'm meant to be soft. I can step up. I can deliver. I can become.
I don't think it has anything to do with you being a woman though. Because I would make the same argument. I've seen men where they think like they truly think that they're okay being isolated. I'm like, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah, and it's not even being
I
isolated.
don't think we're built
It's-
to be alone.
I agree, because we've been talking about connection this whole time. But for me, it's that I can't do it for myself. Even if, like, I'm not going to do my own labor on my car, but I know how to call and talk to a shop and go, what's the price on this? I've already looked up the price online to make sure I'm not getting scammed. You know, like, I want to be able to negotiate and navigate this world. And as a single mom right now, I couldn't do this without the support of my mother, without Josh as a co-parent, without a lot of people that step up to help me. So I have a village. So to think that I'm going to do everything by myself, but I don't want to, what do I say? I don't want to, I almost say I don't want to have to do it by myself. I want to know that I can, but I don't want to have to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you want the option to not.
Yeah, correct. And so for me, there's questions I want to answer. Can I support my children all by myself? Great. That's a question I want to answer. Can I cultivate a healthy family relationship without a man? Like, that was one of the questions before I ever pursued divorce was, did I do everything I could to save this marriage? Did I ask for help? Did I do, all the steps? And then if no one else at the end of the day looked at me and said, that's going to be my woman, I'm going to love those kids, will I be okay? And I will. And I'm in a relationship right now, and it's good, and I enjoy it, and I'm glad it's in my life. But if it goes away, I'll survive. It'll be sad, but I'll survive.
I don't know if I necessarily like that approach, Megan.
Well, that's okay. You don't have to.
No, I'll explain why. And by the way, I'm not critiquing anything. This
No,
is
you're
more
fine.
of like an inquiry, not necessarily. If you're going into relationships with the intention or the possibility of them going south and you being okay, don't you feel like there's a part of you that's not fully committing to that relationship?
I can see how you would see it that way. For sure. I can see how you would read that. It was more that idea of being complete and not needing someone to complete me. Meaning, like, if he went away, I'm not going to fall apart. It will be sad. It will be, but I will be able to stand back up on my own.
That's very
what I mean.
fair.
And I even said that in the beginning, right? Like, I don't know if I'm jaded or if I'm still healing as I say this. Would I ever get married again? Yeah, I think I would. I believe
Really?
I believe in the institution of marriage. I believe in commitment at that level.
It's funny that you say that because I have thought about like, I don't know if this is like normal, but I thought to myself, like, what if something happens?
Of course.
Not even like a divorce, but like, let's say, because my father, he lost, like, my mom died, but like he lost his wife to cancer, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I was younger, I was like, oh, dad's going to start dating and do all this stuff. Never did. And at the longest time, I was just like, dude, why not? Like, you got your own life and all this other stuff. It's only now that I realize, like, I maybe it's my father in me, but like, if something ever happened to Bruna, I'm not doing this shit again. I'm really not.
Well, and I might not. But when you find the person that makes you go, I think I could. I was like, Bruna came along and answered questions for you. She inspires you in different
I don't
ways.
think I'd look. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And that's when you were going to say, like, what is it like to date as a single woman? I wasn't looking. I wasn't looking at all.
So then how did it find you?
I had this amazing friendship that
Sparked a
yeah,
relationship.
well, here we go. I wasn't going to tell my whole story, but if it all works out, then it's going to be like a Hallmark movie or a Lifetime movie, slasher.
Well, either way, we can do a second episode.
One,
You can
one,
tell me
two.
if
Ta-da!
you can tell me if we're getting married or
Yeah, no. No, I knew him from high school. We lost touch for 25 years. He grew up on the farm next to my dad's farm. He hauled hay for my dad. He knew my dad. If you had met a woman that knew your mom, like, there'd be value in that.
my wife
'Cause
did know my mom.
She did,
It's immense value.
right? So you know what it's like because you don't have
They
to
weren't
explain.
close. They weren't close, but God, it's so funny how you say shit and you have no idea how right you are. My mom always told me that I'd be with an Albanian girl, and at the time I was like, what are you talking about? I was
Yeah.
like, Mom, no. Dude, if she could come out of her grave right now, she'd crack up.
Correct.
Forgive me. This is your story.
Correct.
This is
No.
someone that you knew from high school.
Someone I knew from high school. He was my very first kiss, and I kissed him, for the record. So I've always
You've
been
known him.
aggressive. Yes, but I've always known him, and he actually became one of my stories because I used to tell the story that he broke up with me because he was hauling hay. My dad would hire the JV freshman football players to haul hay, and I could outbuck bales, and so he broke up with me because I embarrassed him in front of his friends. So that's the story I told. He would tell a different version of it, which is probably the truth, because since I didn't know why he broke up with me back then, I stared longingly at the back of his head for 4 years and even stalked him in college and tried to find him again. Then we lost touch for 25 years.
How'd you guys reconnect?
Through Facebook, he reached out because he races motorcycles and they needed a massage therapist. And he said, would you ever consider sending your team out? I said, well, no, not until I see what the event's like and if they're going to be safe. And I said, I'll go do it. And we rekindled a friendship. And it was a friendship for a long time before all of a sudden, when the divorce came along, he said, I don't know when you're ready and if you're ready, but
Oh, so you linked back up while you were still married.
yeah.
Interesting.
And he actually told me, he's like, divorce sucks. He's like, you should do whatever you can to save your marriage.
Had he already gone through one?
Yeah. And
Does
never,
he have
and-
children as
no,
well?
No.
Okay,
And
sorry.
never remarried. So,
So wow, he was actually, because my next line of question was going to be like, do you think that he actually played a part in the divorce? But you already answered that question and saying like, no, he was actively telling you like, no, save this. It's not fun. It's,
Yeah,
by the
correct.
way, for the record, every person I've known that's gone through a divorce, no one has a good story.
no.
Either they have like, it sucked, or like, oh my God, don't do it. This is the worst thing ever.
It's sad. Nobody signs up hoping to get
yeah.
divorced. You know, you get married with all the hope and joy and trust. And so there's a lot of loss and a lot of grief comes with that loss, right? Even if it's, I'm like, one that you choose in the end, it's hard to have to choose and you don't want to have to.
I hate to bring this up, but I am curious to hear a female's perspective from this. In the manosphere, especially the red pill community, there's this push for thinking about legislation to revoke the irreconcilable differences option in a divorce. Essentially saying that like this is the option that gives women this is the option in which women most notoriously use for divorcing men for things that they would say are like, you know, in previous times we worked through our differences and mom and dad didn't get divorced and, you know, they pushed through. And I will say this. I think I want to be very careful how I say this. I don't think there's anything on this planet that's like 100% bad, like 100% good. Like, I don't think there's anything that's like
Sure.
pure white or black, right? I
Sure.
do think that there's like 1,000 shades of gray. I can see some of the merit of that argument. I can. I don't necessarily know that because times change, if what worked for our parents and their parents and their parents would necessarily work for us. But that's why I'm asking you the question, because I would like to get a female's perspective on what do you think about this criticism on irreconcilable differences being the motive or the method of divorce. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? What do you think of it?
The part that stinks is I would hate to see it disappear because there's so many things and hurts and abuses inside relationships that would have to be tolerated.
Could you extrapolate a little bit? Forgive
Well, I
me.
was like, what is it going to be like if it's not irreconcilable differences? Like, okay, if he beats you or if he cheats on you, or like those are your two reasons.
Yeah,
you
you're
can
saying
leave.
basically you have to wait until something egregious.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Like, as if neglect isn't a type of abuse, being ignored. You know, and
I don't know how that's possible if you're married. Can you be ignored?
sure,
You think so?
and devalued. And
What do you mean? Forgive me. I am not asking for you to give me specifics on your life. When
Sure.
you say devalued, what does that? Forgive me. What does that mean?
yeah, there's a lot of women who don't have a voice in their marriage, and they just have to do what they're told. Now he doesn't beat them. That's nice. He still brings home the bacon, but she has to do what she's told, like a servant, like a slave.
I don't know if I necessarily view it that way.
Okay.
If the man is the one providing for all of these things and steering that ship, did she not know what captain she was signing up for at marriage?
No, I mean she might have, right? Because there's that famous saying that men marry women hoping they never change. They say young and hot and whatever, and women marry men hoping they will,
That's
hoping they grow up, hoping they. And so I think a lot of people go in with blinders on. I think I said this in one of our first conversations. Those red flags be heart shaped, though.
yeah.
You know, like we can lie to ourselves.
It's like the story I told you earlier about the two people where like I was like, you knew what you signed up for. He never changed. Like that was the guy that
Correct.
you were dating.
And then
That was the
there's-
guy you married. That's the guy you decided to have kids with. Now you're upset.
And those are the rose-colored glasses that we decide, and the mercy we give, and the grace we give, and the hopes that they grow and learn, and hope that we can be the Bruna to
Change.
inspire them to grow, to watch them flourish.
I will fully acknowledge that I feel like I am the minority. I fully acknowledge that. but I don't think that I have to be the minority. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think there's some structural changes that can change and that there could be more stories like mine. I just think that you hit the nail on the head a little bit earlier about like rom-coms and like how they've kind of warped and
our
shaped.
expectations of a relationship and romance and what it looks
I
like.
was the one who set that expectation from day one. And at any moment, Bruna, in my heart, I knew it would work because she was like a stern, logical woman too. So I was like, she was strong. So I didn't have to waste my fucking time. I was like, hey, by the way, she's immensely beautiful, guys. Like my wife was a fucking looker. Like it wasn't that I didn't want to be romantic or any of these things. At that point in my life, I was like, I want kids. I want a family. I want to start building a castle. Do you want that? Yes, I want that. Great. What kind of man do you want in that? Well, I want my man to have this, that, and the other. Cool. I feel like I have those. Here's how I think I have those. Here's what I want in a woman. I think you'd make a great mom from what I've seen, but this is what I want from the mother of my children, and this is what I want. Boom, boom, boom. 3 months of that, then I flew out to California to hang out with her. Had some of the best sex we ever had in our lives. It was amazing. But we spent 3 months laying the foundation, the most unsexy, unromantic. It felt at some times like a business transaction.
Negotiation, right.
But it was exactly what both of us needed. And this is my thing is like, do you think people rush to romance and they don't do a proper job vetting?
Absolutely. Because that's the fun part.
Yeah.
That's the fun part, and the reality sets in. And that's why there's such a term as honeymoon phase.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right? I was like, and like you said earlier, that part's like having great sex, being excited, missing someone uncontrollably so much that you do something crazy like take a red eye in the middle of the night to go see it. That's the fun stuff, right? And I'm not saying that doesn't happen anymore, but it changes and your priorities change. And now when you take a flight, it's going to be with your daughter.
Do you think a portion of it also has to do with age? And I don't mean necessarily that we like get old and that so like a part of the reason why I would never do it again if I feel like I have to knock on wood. I'm talking hypothetically.
Yes.
If something ever did happen, the reason I say I would never want to do it again is because like I'm too old for this. I don't know how people date.
Can you have different needs at that age though?
In what
like,
respect?
Well, I'm just saying, like I said, God forbid, sorry, Bruno. Like
we're
talking about
hypothetically.
we're talking about oftener in 20 years. You know what I'm saying? But like your
the life insurance policy will be fat.
Ta-da! I was like, you're 45 years old. You had an amazing mother of your kids because they'll be plural by that time.
Hopefully.
Yes, that's
we're
what
working
saying.
on it.
That's what I'm saying. And then what do you need? Because you were asking me the same question. What would you want differently?
That's a great fucking question.
Companionship, fun. I love spontaneity. You know what? When a woman gets married, she gives up freedom, right? Part of herself. Men do too, right? You give up part of yourself to become a part of a bigger team, a part of a marriage, right? So there's a part of you that not dies.
Do you think you give up freedom or do you think you add responsibility? Because I think those are two different things. I don't feel like I gave up freedom, but I feel like I have more responsibility.
To say yes to Bruno is to say no to about every other woman, right? So there's a freedom of choice in that.
No, here's the difference in that. For a woman, it could be the case, but for a man, that's very narcissistic of me to think I have a slew of women that are willing to say yes to me. Does that make sense?
Okay,
For a woman, you do say, like, if you walk into a bar and you're like, hey, boys, we're open for business, you're going to get a lot of yeses. If I do that, I'm going to get a lot of no's. So perhaps for a woman, that is the case, but for a man, no, I never felt that way.
I had someone explain to me once that essentially, like, you give up part of yourself when you get married, not in a bad way, but to become a part of something bigger than yourself. And then when you have children, we give up our bodies for 9 months, and
women sure do. God bless you for that.
And after, as their physical needs are met from our physical person, breastfeeding or not, middle of the night, rocking, all the things, right? The planning, the mental load that goes into diaper bags. Does it loaded? And do we have enough formula for this trip and all this stuff, right? So
I cannot say God bless hard enough.
there's a part of our spontaneity that goes away. The part that makes us feel like the woman you pursued, the one that got to get dressed up and wow you,
I don't know if I agree with that too. Because I'll tell you personally, Megan, the shit that turns me on. You want to know what's funny is sometimes my wife will. I want to be careful how I say this. She has no reason to be jealous. She has no reason to think anything, right?
Sure, right.
However, there are moments where I can perceive the weakness in her. Like I'm out and there's people and everybody's dressed up and she might think like, well, I'm at home with the kids and all this other stuff. And like, what if he like sees someone else? I don't think she understands that like when I when I was 23 and I looked at Bruna with lustful eyes because she was a beautiful woman. She still is a beautiful woman, but I was young, dumb, very excited. I don't think she understands that I don't think I'm isolated to this. And I would love to hear more men's perspective on this, but this is how I feel. The nature of what I find attractive, the nature of what is like sexy to me has fundamentally changed. When I see a girl walking down the street, or like, let's say we're at like a dinner or something, and the girl's like in the red dress with the push-up bra, the filler lips and stuff like that, I'm not an idiot. I know those are fake tits. I know that's fake lips. I know that's a fake ass. Like, I know that when you take all that off, it looks exactly like what you think it will look like. And I know that. The smoke and mirrors don't work on me.
Anymore.
That's a very good point. Uh-huh. What turns me on more than anything now, Megan, is like when I come home and it's 9 p.m. and I'm exhausted and there's dinner ready.
Sure.
With the sign that says Arion. Or I walk in on a weekend and my daughter's already ready for soccer and Bruna's like, hey, I made you a coffee. There's nothing more attractive than a woman that, like, when Bruna thinks about me and the kids, like, dude, that's what gets, I'm like, we got 5 minutes? Because I only need 3. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, like, I hear what you're saying about the spontaneity and all this other stuff, but, like, don't you think that that's the natural progression of life, is that, like, that will leave you and that should leave you? I don't think you should feel like you have to doll up and everything to be attractive to your man or anything like that, right? Am I incorrect?
No. There's 2 sides of that. There's the nothing is sexier than waking up next to the woman you love in the morning when
Agreed.
her hair is a mess and and she's got the sleepy eyes and she's like sounds when she rolls over and you're like, I'm so lucky. There's that version.
Fair.
But we still want to wow you.
Explain.
In a different way. Like, I still want to be the girl that gets dressed up. I still want to go to the Fox.
Yeah.
And have a reason to put on heels and feel cute. I don't want to just be the mom.
Okay.
I want to be the woman still.
Okay.
And so, but we're talking about what to do if there was no Bruna in next life. Like, like I said, what does companionship look like? What does interacting with people around you look like? What I have in this phase of my life is spontaneity a little more. Again, and that's the thing I'm trying to embrace because it's something that I lost for a few years.
Do you like it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. I'm really good at doing things by myself, and I'm trying to work on loving my own company, like going to dinner by myself. When my boyfriend's not available, I was like, I have no problem going to the Fox and getting lost in a great musical or whatever. And so part of that's about me shoring up who I am, what I enjoy, and my comfort in my own company, And so that's been a journey as well.
So then I feel like you're simultaneously learning 2 things, forgive me. You're learning how to be independent while simultaneously pursuing someone else. Do you not think that those can somehow
Butt heads?
are inherently combative towards one another?
Correct. Hence my poor boyfriend. Who sometimes I'm like, I just need to be left alone. I just want some space. And his immediate thought is, what have I done wrong? How can I help?
Of course, as
whatever,
anybody would.
Whatever. And I'm just kind of like, no, but I'm just trying to learn how to enjoy me. And so that comes back to me learning how to say what I need. And it's okay for me to need space. And it doesn't mean I don't care about you and I don't want to be with you. It's me learning how to enjoy myself. And so while he was unplanned, he was a welcome surprise. And if he went away, I don't think I would date. I don't think I'd be interested in that. I think I'd be interested in pursuing things that bring me joy for me. Again, filling my bucket and healing.
Can I ask you another variable, and that is the children? Has your son or daughter ever brought it up, like, mom, or when my mom died, me and my brother had to have a conversation with my dad because at the first year it was kind of dark. Like, he started drinking a little more, was putting pictures up like all around the family, like all around the house. I was like, hey, this is not normal. You know what I mean? So like we had to sit my dad down and we're like, hey man, like, we think it would be beneficial, like, if you dated, if you got out there a little bit. And my dad was like, even from day one, he's like, nope. He's like, I don't want anybody else. And I don't know if that's necessarily the right or wrong approach. I think there's different strokes for different folks, right?
Sure.
But I will say this. I'm his son, and right now, I really wish he had a partner.
Gotcha.
I really wish he didn't live alone. Like, I don't, I'm not saying, like, get a dog for companionship. I'm saying, like, I want another person there for you to share life with, because I want to be very careful how I say this, because my father is in no way, shape, or form a burden to me. I feel like the companionship he is now missing out on at this point in his life, he is now looking for me and my brother and subsequently my wife and my daughter to kind of supplement. And I think there's a
Absolutely.
beauty to that
Sure.
because I do want my daughter to have a relationship with her grandfather and all that. But I want to make sure that it's not like a necessity. It is a luxury.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I don't think my mom would begrudge me saying the fact that the first, like, she didn't start dating until 6 years after my dad passed. She dated a man who had lost his wife to cancer, and it had only been a year and a half for him. So for his kids, dating my mom was very quick.
I'm sure.
For us, it was very like, thank heavens, because she clung to us. And granted, we were young, 15 and 18. Parents are still going to cling at that age. But like, I remember being at college, coming home from like the library. She's like, "Are you in safe? Is your door locked? Are you like?" She couldn't sleep until she knew I was safe because we lost a brother at birth. So she's lost a spouse. She's lost parents. She's lost children. She's known so much grief in her life, and still chooses in strength to continue to give, knowing that she could lose. Right. And so that's been my example as well. But I understand, not from a burden standpoint in that sense, but you long to see them fulfilled as well.
Yeah, I just
Right.
sometimes I think to myself, are you coming over because you're bored, or are you coming over because you want to see us?
Right.
If you want to see us, by all
Come
means,
on
the door
over.
is always
Yep.
open. What if you're bored?
I remember missing my mom when she started dating her now husband.
Really?
And they've been married over 20 years. And so I remember going like, she never calls me anymore. Where is she? Like, you're breaking my routine. Is something up? Is she okay? And so I remember thinking, almost calling her like, well, are you safe? You know, and playing back a little bit in that because I didn't know what to do about it. So dating with kids becomes what I couldn't show them as far as affection and respect and conflict resolution and allowing a woman to be pursued by a man and allowing me to be soft. Like what I wasn't able to demonstrate in my marriage, I can demonstrate in my dating life, how to date healthy, how to allow myself to be pursued, how Brian treats me, how he opens doors. Last vacation,
Chivalry's not dead.
it's not. It is fully alive in Brian, whether I want it or not, which is something that I've struggled with. And when I joke about this poor guy having to put up with me, like, I'm very independent. I can do it myself. I don't need you to do it. And one of my favorite stories, which will demonstrate the dynamic of my relationship, is he moved from Mississippi back to Missouri because we were long distance. He had some life
For
changes.
you?
No, not for me, but his family is in Missouri.
Okay, sorry. I was like, damn,
And-
girl, this is serious.
And
You made it sound like y'all were just dating.
yeah, no, we've been together for a while. And, but I was a factor as well. Cause he's like, if we want to move to the next stage of this relationship, I need to be close to you.
Proximity, for sure.
Yes, correct. So it was intentional and I was a factor, but his family is back here.
Two
and
birds, one stone.
You got it.
What an
So,
efficient man.
yeah, if nothing else. He is speedy and efficient. So, there was a point to my story, dating kids,
Showing how we were talking about chivalry and how
chivalry and not being dead. We just got back from vacation in Vegas and the kids, like he and Levi fight over who's going to open the door for me and Millie now because Brian's done it so much that it's overflown and over whatever.
he set a standard.
Yeah, he has. And not that his dad didn't, but how he cares for me changes how my son cares for me because he has an example now. And he participates in jiu-jitsu, so he roughhouses my son and wrestles him and puts him in uncomfortable positions all the time. And I watch men bond, and it makes me uncomfortable in a beautiful kind of way. And my daughter is clingy and handsy. And at one point, my mom even said, "Which one of you guys is dating him, Millie or you?" Because she's safe enough to tuck in under his arm while watching a movie, and that will just melt my heart. That my kids feel safe because he creates an environment where he's strong and we can be little. I always say, to make a 6 foot, 100 pound woman feel feminine and dainty, like the stronger he is, the less I have to be. And he makes me feel like an exhale.
Let me ask you this, and this is more macro, not necessarily correlated to you.
Okay.
Do you think that the growth in societal power in women has come at the regression of men's societal powers?
I don't know, that just got really heady for me. An example I'll use, scripturally speaking, all the way back to the beginning with Adam and Eve. I joke that that's where my belief is all the problems began. The man became passive. Eve took the apple, said, "I'll handle this," and everything went to shit. And so I think going back to my what may seem traditional or old-fashioned standards of men leading and women following, with a voice and with support and with challenge to our men is really beautiful. And when things get flipped is when things go a little bonkers.
I agree.
So I think the more that women stand up in their masculine, like, I'll handle this, I'll take this, I don't need your help, I don't need, then men are allowed to become passive, whether they knew it was happening initially or they took the exhale.
I don't know if I
Or-
agree with that.
Go ahead, tell me
I
why.
do not want to insult your ex-husband. I don't think a man allows for a woman to set the standard. I think a man sets a standard and then a woman accepts it or not. I didn't give Bruna options. I told her what I wanted and I told her what I was offering and she said yes. At any moment she could have said no. At any moment she could have left. She can still leave.
And how many, like, that comes to your communication skills as well, something that he and I lacked.
That's fair. That's fair. I don't think the onus is on the female to communicate. I think it's on the man. I think it's a standard we set.
I would love that to be true.
I have to be careful
And I
because
haven't
I don't
experienced it though.
I don't want to
consistently.
sound like this like machismo. Trust me, boys, I got my weak moments too. Like if you talk to my wife, she'd have horror stories. I guess what I'm trying to say is like, and I'm only 2 years into my marriage. Give me 5 more,
Seriously?
maybe.
That's
Yeah.
all?
But here's the thing: I've known her since I was 13. Similar story to you. Like
Yeah.
I knew her. We were around each other. She kind of knew the guy I was. We would have never worked when I was younger because I wasn't a
Same.
man. You know what I mean? I
Same.
was just dumb. And it wasn't until my mom died that changed me, the responsibility that was thrust on my shoulders, that I accepted, turned into a man. And then when I approached her courting, I was just a different Arion.
I love that you said courting, and I'll let you finish your thought in a second.
Why do you like that though?
But it's a different intention. It's your conversation was with the intention of marriage.
100%.
It's not dating, it's not screwing around, it's not hooking up, it's not Netflix and chill.
Do you want to know where I was at in my life? This is going to be a little TMI, but like I was so I'm going to do a soapbox for 5 minutes. One of the things that I hate about the manosphere so much right now is this emphasis on having sex, as if acquiring sex is somehow this goal that'll make you a man. I'm telling you right now, gentlemen, and I want to be very careful how I say this because I want to respect my wife. That is a lie. That is a lie. I've lived it. It is a lie. There is a price to be paid for women and men for a high body count. I think those prices are different, but there is a price to be paid. There are things that I actively have to work on because of the mistakes that I made when I was younger, thinking that that sort of lifestyle would be like machismo or somehow made me a man. What makes me a man is 2 variables: responsibility and discipline. Discipline in all aspects of my life. When I leave the house, when I'm in my house, all these other things, and responsibility. It is not what I can do with my cock. I will also go a step further than that. Women need to understand the power that they have over men. It is the best power. All day I've been talking about how my wife had made me a better man. And I hear so many women complaining about how, men are shit, men aren't this, men aren't that. By the way, I hear men complaining about women, and I don't think they realize that the fault is solely on their own. Like, it's within themselves. You did not create the apparatus for a man to step up, and you did not lead by example for a woman to be recessive and traditional with you. You can't have it both ways, guys. You can't be the independent, I'm going to, boss bitch, all this other stuff, and then find a man that's going to have, turn you into this, feminine creature. You want to be a feminine creature for a man to come in and do that. And by the way, men, you can't, sleep with the whores at the bar that you saw and then think one of them is going to be the woman you take home to meet mom. It's like we're looking for love in all the wrong places. Where am I going with this? Where I was at my life when I talked to Bruna, I would literally, Megan, believe me or not, my Snapchat would hit up. I don't know if this is TMI. What I would do is, I was at the point in my life, 24, 25, where I had so many partners that I was playing video games with my friends. And if a girl would hit me up, I would do what I do. And if after I did that, meaning by myself, if I still wanted that girl to come over, I knew that it was for like, maybe I really like this girl and I enjoy her companionship. You want to know how many times I said no and I chose to play video games with the boys with post-nut clarity? Usually 10 times out of 10. The majority of the time when women would hit me up to be like, I want to come over, spend the night, we can hang out, do Netflix and chill.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, cool. 1 second, guys, do what I do. I'd be like, hey, tired tonight. I'm just going to call it a night. And then I play PUBG with the boys for another 2 hours. And that's like the epiphanous moment that I had where I was like, everything that I thought about like women and sexuality and all these other things, I'm literally choosing to play video games instead of having a human connection because I've devalued it so much. That's when I knew that I had a problem. That's when I knew. And I told myself, I was like, if I don't get a hold on this, if I don't do something like within myself to add discipline and responsibility to my life, I'm going to become an incel. I'm going to become that guy that hates women and all these other things. Not because women didn't choose me, but because I can't find a woman that I would want to choose. So in a lot of ways, Bruna saved me. That's like it's very anecdotal. But some of the things that I kind of instill in young men today, I had the conversation with Tony when he was on the podcast. He's the kid that I mentor, and he's the kid that I really have a lot of faith in for the future. One of the things that we were talking about, he's 18 years old, and I was like, hey, you know, you have a girlfriend. He's like, I love her. And I was like, you know, he's like, no. He's like, I don't know if she's going to be the one. But she's like, he goes, my intentions with her is like when I graduate college, when she graduates college, like we want to get married and we want to have kids. That is the kind of way men should be talking at 18. That's the way they should be talking about 18. And by the way, it takes two to tango. His girlfriend, I'm sure she's got a bunch of friends that are going to college, and I'm sure they're talking a certain way. And what is she saying? No, I'm going to go to college, and I'm going to get married to him, and we're going to have this, that, and the other. I think that's what it takes. I think it takes discipline and responsibility from like the early ages of life. I really do. I think our generations were sold this false bill of goods that said like, hey, our conservative parents, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Let's run wild. Now we have a generation of like mentally ill people on both sides, by the way. I see a bunch of men that say they hate women, and I see a bunch of women that say they hate men. The irony in this is that we need each other. But we were told that we could have each other at will with no regard. And look at us now.
Right.
The most mentally ill generation that's ever existed. And we didn't even go through a world war yet.
I know. So my thing becomes is like with the next generation, with investing in our kids, how do you instill that? How do you have that conversation? Because it starts by, like we talked about earlier, what's been demonstrated for you.
I think there's two ways to learn: negative reinforcement. Negative reinforcement or positive affirmation. There's a lot of things that I learned from my mom and dad from them doing it the right way. There's a lot of things I learned from them doing it the wrong way. And I think our kids are going to see both of that and say, hey, maybe there's something to really picking a partner that first time around. Or your daughter will really put an emphasis on the man pursuing the woman and true courtship. And maybe your son will see, I need to be chivalrous. I can't hold the door for everyone. So the people that I do hold the door for or open the door for or whatever, maybe they'll understand that that's like an act of affection and respect and all these other things. And ultimately, I think kids learn more from what they see and not from what they hear.
Role modeling, right?
Yes.
I was like, so then when your actions speak louder than your words.
I think they always do.
Absolutely. So in your household growing up, was your dad the disciplinarian and the heavy and your mom was the soft spot?
Okay. My mom was a G, Megan.
Really?
My mom was a G. It took a woman to raise a man.
There you go. So it is possible.
But my dad knew his role.
Yeah.
It's the same way that it works with our relationship. Like Bruna does 95% of the shit. And I let her. I step back, let you run the ship. The 5% that I come in on, I told her, I was like, hey, when I stand up, when I raise my voice, I need you to shut the fuck up. I need you to let me lead for a little bit. And then after I'm done, all you again. But the 5% of the time that I do, I need you to not fight me on this. And she's like, okay. Yeah. And then we also never argue in front of the kids.
That's beautiful.
Even if we do something that we wait until we're in bed. Yeah. Hey, you shouldn't have done that. I didn't like how you said that.
Yeah, that didn't sit right.
As far as I'm concerned, I want my kids to think that me and Bruna were like the united front.
Cohesive unit.
Yeah, not that we're perfect. We'll tell them when they're 18, 19, 20, oh, there were some rough times. But when they're little kids and they're looking at us, they're going to remember that. There's things that I remember when I was like 5, 6, 7, 8 years old that my parents will probably never realize. But that shit hit me, and it hit me forever. And I know that. So I'm right now my daughter's 2.5. I can get away with murder now, but when she starts hitting 4, 5 years old, I'm gonna have to really walk on eggshells.
Yeah. So,
You're turning this around on me. This is supposed to be about you.
no, this is good though, because I think it proves my point that like, we all just do what we know. And what we know is what we've been shown until we're shown a better or a different way. And sometimes it takes us figuring out, like, we think we're doing right until we see how our kids are responding. And then we've got to stop and adjust.
I think rearing children's also like a gamble. You won't know until they're adults.
And
You might think you're doing well. How many people did you know? They're 16, 17, 18, honor roll and all these other things. And then college dropouts. And like, dude, I was the exact opposite. I was like a little fuck up in high school. And then, dude, I don't know how I got here, to be honest with you. Like, I think a lot of it is luck. You do what you can,
And then you have to let your kids
and then you have to let
choose.
them go.
Well, that's just it. So going back to the MMA analogy, I'm going to have to let my kid walk into the ring by itself.
Yeah.
Whichever one it is. You know, like, I'm going to be there. I'm going to train them. I'm going to hold mitts. I'm going to cut weight. I'm going to make their meals. I'm going to do whatever I can do on the outside of the ring. But eventually we let them go. We want them to be successful.
You're going to have to. They're going to outlive you.
Correct. And you're going to have to watch your kids fail. And you're going to have to let them, because that's where they learn. So many parents overprotect their kids from letting them make mistakes.
Shield them.
As little, and I'll say trivial, as when a baby falls down. I just had this conversation last night. We watched at a water park, watched a little kid running in the water, you know, and skim.
Eat it.
Yeah, exactly. And I went, awesome, great job, look at that. And I started clapping, and she was like, am I okay? Like, is this good? And then her mom's like, oh my gosh, Sissy, are you all right? Tears, right? Because she sees concern. Something must be wrong.
Oh, no.
Right? So I was like, I cheer when my kids fall down. I'm like, is their bone sticking out? Nope, you're good. Keep going.
Well,
Dust
you've
it
got
off.
2 kids that are teenagers, or one that is, and one that it's almost.
The one that could be, yes, right now.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that the next generation is going to be presented with difficulties in parenting that we could only fathom?
I think they're going to have to be. Look at the ones I'm dealing with that I didn't think I couldn't. Like, I wouldn't have fathomed that I'd be dealing with social media and access and, like, Snapchat for my 12-year-old when everyone just sends, trying to keep their streaks up is a thing, and they just send pictures of walls to each other just so they can send a picture of, and policing them and shutting it.
It scares the fuck out of me.
I hate every bit of it.
Not just that, it also scares me to see how many of the parents have just outsourced parenting to technology. I was at a dinner. Me and Bruna have the only kid that's not a tablet baby.
That's amazing, though. Good for you.
Well, we work on it. Trust me. It's like we have to. But I see it, and I think to myself, like, I'm not trying to pass judgment on them, but I think to myself, like, don't you understand what you're doing? Don't you understand the unrealistic level of dopamine that you're giving to these kids? You say that your kid is unruly and all that stuff. No, they're not. If you would have given me at 4 years old an N64, I would have lost my shit.
Right.
I got that when I was 10. Thank God. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I just don't think that. I think I want to be very careful how I say this. To each their own. Everyone's going to parent however they want. Perhaps my kid goes on and becomes a heroin addict, and I should have given them the tablet. Only time will tell. But what I am saying is that there seems to be a correlation between laziness and what I perceive to be misparenting. And if you were giving the kid a tablet, and on the tablet they were reading a book, I wouldn't say a fucking word. But they're watching dumb shit on YouTube so that you can have a dinner at peace with your husband, where if you would have never given them the tablet to begin with, that wouldn't be the status quo for keeping them on like terms where they could actually have a dinner. My daughter's chill. Now, part of that is because she's a girl, so like they're just more chill.
Sure.
But the part of that is also because we interact
What
with
she's
her.
been exposed to.
Yeah, we interact with her. It's not just me and Bruna. It's like, hey, baby, like, I always say, like, the running joke is like, I'm taking we're going on a date. Me, my daughter, and my wife are going on a date. And sometimes when my wife goes out, I take my daughter out on a date.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And my wife loves it and all that stuff. But like the other thing is also that I want to incorporate her in everything. I don't want her to feel like she's the third wheel at anything. Hey, we're here together. Do you want to talk? She's 2.5. And she's just yapping. Cool. As long as you're talking with us and you're not like losing your mind or anything. Forgive me. Let me take a step back though, because the initial question was like, technology is already having a grip on how people parent today. I can only imagine what it's going to happen in the next 10 years.
When you have your own AI robot nanny.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
We're not even
the
that, but,
Jetsons
like,
are going to be real.
I don't even know how to prevent my daughter from like having unrealistic expectations of her body, or like what what constitutes as like a real relationship 10 years from now when she can have a language learning model on her phone that could be her best friend. I just don't know. Like, I worry about shit that doesn't even exist yet. This is like how stupid I am.
Yeah, well, that's when I go, like, that's a waste of time. And I have to do this to myself because if I get, I say, too far out from my everyday, like, I can't control what's going to happen in 10 years. You know what I can control? This next moment, this next meal, this next pickup from school, this next breath. And so I have to be present if I want to be productive, right? And I allow them to lead, and all I can do is guide. So when they start going down this way that I don't like, I steer back, then I have a conversation. One of my biggest things with parents is they used to go, hey, knock it off. Or, no, don't do that. Don't do what? Why don't do it? What should I be doing instead? Like, there's no learning. There's no teaching in the middle of that. They're not dogs, you know? And so I think I probably over-explain. I definitely talk too much. And I know with my son, he like glosses over 30 seconds in, where my daughter's like dialed in, taking notes on her note app on her phone with everything I say. And my son glosses over, not because he's unintelligent in any way, but just because he's like, all right, mom's doing the thing. Let's just wait till she stops, you know? And so, but you talked about dating kids individually. And I've been dating, you only have one right now, but I love that you take her on dates. But I've taken my son and daughter on dates separately and they open up differently. They have a different conversation when there's not two of them competing for my attention. Mm-hmm. So I can be 100% dialed in on them. And when it comes to technology, one of the things that, like, even if my kids didn't have tablets and stuff growing up, they had the old wooden phones from B Toys at Target because I love vintage looking things. My daughter had a wooden phone, and I knew I had to change or at least make sure I was modeling things differently because she said, hi, period, how are you, question mark, and she was talking voice to text into her wooden phone using punctuation because that's what she would hear her mom do for work.
Oh, Jesus.
And I was like, that is so far from bring, hello, is Nana there? Yeah, here's the phone. Like, make believe in that way. But her make believe was like, hello, period, can you come over, question mark, what time is dinner, question mark. You know, I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to model something different for my daughter. And that was 10 years ago, right? So when you talk about the future, I was like, you can't get lost in that. You have to stay in the now.
I'm getting lost in the sauce.
I know, but you can think forward ahead with all your business and 8 years in, because they say the days are long, but the years are short. With your daughter, she's already two and a half. So true. And sometimes at the end of the day, you're like, can you just please go to bed? I've never loved something so much that I've wanted to stop talking in my entire life, except my children.
Sometimes I'll be at night and it just hits me. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
And I think to myself, like, fuck me, dude. Where did the last 6 years go? 10 years? It doesn't feel like it to me.
Right.
I was telling this to some people and I was like, it feels like the first 15, 20 years took twice as long as the last 15 years. So I'm 32.
Sure.
And that kind of scares me. This will be the last question I have for you, if you don't mind. Because you're a little bit more established than I am and a little bit more experienced.
Good job.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Does it continue on that trajectory?
I think it goes even faster.
You think so?
I do. And maybe because we're more aware. And maybe because some of the big things you're chasing become established. And I think that's the goal, is you want to be so established that you can slow down and be present. Right? So, like, time's the one commodity we can't get back. And so how we utilize that time is so precious. And that's been a permission I've had to give myself. Even when my business isn't going strong and I'm not pulling in the numbers I want to pull, I'm still going to show up for that track meet. And I'll make less money, and so we'll eat out less this month, and I'll cook more meals at home, and that'll be fine, and it's more work for me, but it's the choice that I make to be able to go and be present for my kids. But yes, I think, like, I have 4 years left with my son before he is 18 and able to graduate, go out on his own, choose his life, whatever. And I'm thinking, I've got so much more to teach you before I can do this. Like, this is not good. This is not safe. Like, can we hold you back a year? Like, I feel myself trying to cling the more independent he gets. You're so proud to see their independence. And yet I just want to draw him near. And so the super creepy mom privilege that I have is at night when he's like full mouth open breathing, you know, sleeping in bed. And I get to go in and brush his hair out of his face and rub my forehead, my thumb against his forehead, because that's how I used to put him to sleep when he was a baby, and kiss him right on the cheek, and he doesn't even know it.
Yeah.
And I just, as much as I want to, because he'd be like, Mom, get off off me if he could. But my consistency with my son, which is beautiful. And when I was little, and they're rear facing and forward facing at certain ages, when they're rear facing, he couldn't see me, he would wail in a car. And so here I am driving, as moms do, with their arms behind them, arm going numb, your neck's getting a cramp, but you're holding your kid to keep him from screaming because he can't see you. And then he finally turns around and he's forward facing. And if he cries, you're going back and you're playing with his pinky toes and you're holding his hand and doing the thing and still driving down the road. To this day, 14 years old, if I put my hand backwards behind me because he sits behind me in the seat, he slides his hand into mine. and now it's like holding a man's hand and it creeps me out. I gotta shake it sometimes, But I remember.
It's different from grabbing a toddler's toes.
Yeah, I know. But I remember when he turned 12, I said, dude, do you know, in 4 years you'll be driving? And he goes, and Mom, I'll always reach back and hold your hand. It was the sweetest thing. And I totally screwed the moment by going, no, you won't. You'll keep two hands on the wheel because you're 16. You don't have timing. You don't know what you're doing. But, I have to tell myself he's still in there. Because now he gets up and brushes his teeth by himself. And, he doesn't need me for anything except for, hey, Mom, can you drop me off at Six Flags?
That's the great conundrum.
Sure.
You want to be involved, but you also want to produce kids that don't need you. So then by virtue, you won't be involved.
There's a great song by Need to Breathe. And it's called Banks. And it talks about the banks of a river. He goes, I want to hold you close, but never hold you back. Just like the banks of a river.
I like that.
And it says, and when the world tells you you're not enough, I want to break every mirror. And so it talks about this love that you want to create this freedom, but I'll always be there to guide you. Like bumpers if you need me, And
there's such wisdom in that.
I was and so then I go that's slowly becoming my role. Is where I'm here if you need me, but you got to go do what you got to do. And the failures that we're going through now are, I failed to time manage well, and so I didn't turn in my English paper on time, and now I have a C instead of an A. And I'm like, you have a C. And I have to go, no, this is a great place for him to fail. And realize feel the consequence, feel the weight of it, and go, I don't want to be that kid. I'm kind of embarrassed about my grade. I want to do better. Because that's not his character. That's just a grade. And so I want kind kids and compassionate kids and kids of character of integrity, not a kid with straight A's who's an a-hole, So there's times to refocus and recalibrate so you can stay present. And that's really the challenge. So my only advice is don't go down the road too hard, too fast on the parenting thing and just stay where she's at.
It's so hard, though.
It is.
You want to be so perfect at it.
Correct. You aren't. You never will be.
Yeah.
And the best thing I do for my kids is say, I mishandled that. I love you so much. I told them, I said, I'm on your team. If you're drunk at a party and you know I'm going to be mad, I'd rather you be it's always that I want to call mom, not whatever you do, don't tell mom.
Yeah.
Let's tell mom. She'll know what to do.
To piggyback off of that, this is the variables I think about that aren't even present anymore. I've already decided how I'm going to be when she's a teenager and all this other stuff. I just think I like to have plans. Even if we're going to deviate, I feel like it's better to have plans and then have a backup and a second backup and a third backup. But one of the things that I've had to tell myself, and this is where I go back to that earlier comment about I realize I have a short fuse, is that, my parents gave me grace to fail. And I need to give that to my kid because it was one of the things that made me who I am. And I do like who I am. So I just need to remember that, just because it's obvious to me doesn't mean it's obvious to everybody else. And that's okay. And they'll come to that conclusion. There are things that I fucked up 20 years ago that I'm just now going, oh my God, that's why she said what she said. Or no wonder Dad didn't let me do that because he knew.
Right.
So I just have to remind myself that. Parenting's tough, though.
The relationship I have with God completely changed when I have kids.
For sure.
Because I would get annoyed at reading the Bible going thou shalt not do this, do that. And I'm just supposed to be obedient and blindly follow whatever this book says that was written because I believe. And you know what I find myself saying to my kids? I'm like, I love you. I'm here for you. I want your success. I want good things for you. And I'm asking you to draw upon my knowledge. You don't even have to think. Just do what I say. And this will keep you safe in this way or protect you from some of this. I love you so much. I wouldn't say no. I want to say yes to you all the time. I want to give you everything your heart desires. But I'll say no if I know it's going to hurt you. Why won't you just listen to me? And all I can think of is, that's what that dude's doing looking down on me like, Megan, I only say no because I love you, because I've got something better.
Yeah.
And having to trust that. And I'm looking at my kids going like, I'm your mom. Why don't you trust me? You know, and he's going, I'm your Heavenly Father. Why don't you trust me? I'm like, well, because I suck, you know, because I'm selfish.
I think
because I'm still learning too.
That's also the beauty of life.
Oh.
If someone's going to live it for you, why even be in it?
Well, and that's why free will is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
That's
I wrestle with it.
That's for another podcast.
No, but I will end on this. If there's any advice I ever give any man who's having a daughter, be in the room with your wife when she's giving birth. I'm telling you, it is the most awe-inspiring change in your perception of reality you will ever experience. And be there for the whole process. The epidural if she needs it, all this other shit. Oh my God, dude. Whenever you'll never hear me say anything bad about a lot of aspects of my wife, because I realize what she's had to go through just to have one kid. And the fact that she's willing to have a second, I'm like, oh, thank God. Because if you told me to do it, I'd be like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I think it will give you a new reverence for life, and it will bring you closer to God, because you realize that like this shit is magical, not inspirational, not cool. Literally, my mind was blown for 48 fucking hours. I was like, what is going on? Mm-hmm. And then to see everything and then my place in it, it really is like I thought I had purpose before. Now I know my purpose. My purpose is to be a father. And to be a father, I have to provide, I have to protect, all these other things. So then I have the job, I have my guns and all these other things. But my job is to be a father. That's always been my job, even before it was my job, because I had to learn all the lessons I had to become the man to be a father. So even from the day we're born, our job is going to be parents. I don't know. What the fuck do I know? I'm a 32-year-old guy, foreign man from a foreign land, but life is pretty good right now, so I can't complain.
And people said to me once, you'll know, right now you know more than you ever have as a parent before you ever have kids, because everything you thought you knew you would be goes out the door.
Dude.
And so it is a learning on the fly. It is resilience. It is flubbing up or fumbling on the play a little bit and regaining control.
It's the best audible call.
Yeah, exactly.
Before we put a pin on this one, by the way, thank you. 2.5 hours. You fucking like.
Sure.
It flew by. Before we call it quits, is there anything that you wanted to touch on that we maybe didn't get to on this conversation? Is there anything you want to say? Forgive me, the floor is yours. I've taken so much of your time.
It's been an honor to speak to you, because I think my biggest draw, my gift, and a big part of my purpose is connecting with others. And it is the greatest honor of my life, like to journey alongside my kids and mentor them, right? But I have that amazing opportunity every day at work. And I can't tell you what a blessing it is for me to have the trust of people to open up, trust me with their bodies, first of all, but I call it my horizontal bar stool, my massage table, because people can speak through their trauma, they can heal, and hurting people hurt people, but heal people too, you know? And it's our responsibility to make a difference where we can. And I'll end on that with my kids. One of our biggest rules in my house is see needs, meet needs. So if you see the trash needs to be taken out, I shouldn't have to tell you, you live here, do it. And like we teach that culture at my business as well, but if you can make a difference in any way, you should. And that doesn't always look the same for everybody, whether it's financially or time or encouragement. But the biggest gift we have is to walk alongside each other in pain, in grief, in joy. And that connection is the power that's going to heal this world.
God bless. Megan.
Sir.
I cannot thank you enough.
I appreciate you.
Thank you.